I'm boring again. But welcome in, welcome in. I'm so glad you guys could join. I'm really, really excited for today. As you guys see, some of you are from Jingles community specifically. A lot of us overlap sort of, but I have Rat Rodeo, aka my beautiful friend Jingles, here today to talk about all things disability, SLP, speech language pathology, and living with disabilities and chronic illnesses, either mental or physical or what have you. Hi, Jingles.
Hello, hello.
Hi.
Hi, guys.
I'm really, really excited. So for those that aren't aware, I've only done one other Wormhole Wednesday before. So this format is kind of an interview format. I will be asking Jingles some questions of my own. I will be taking notes as we go along. And if you guys have any questions whatsoever, feel free to ask. This is supposed to be an open conversation. I also want to say that I do have moderators in chat. We want this to be a very safe space for everybody to have a very open, honest conversation, exchange ideas. If you do agree, disagree, if you have some questions that you're afraid of asking because you might think they're quote unquote stupid, don't be afraid. Share your opinions. Just do so. All we ask is that you do so respectfully. And if you're asking a question, you're asking it really to try to understand, and it's in good faith. Otherwise, it should be a really fun time. The last one was a bunch of fun. That one's up on my YouTube, and I'm really excited to discuss these topics, especially given my recent diagnosis. So this should be really, really fun. I'm really excited. Here we go. Also, there's another thing I added, guys. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Oh my god.
Ta-da!
That's so cute.
I know. I spent
Oh my
way too long
goodness.
last night working on that.
It's beautiful.
I love it. Happy autism diagnosis. Oh my god. Jingles, you look different. I don't know.
I don't know what you're talking about. This is how I look. I just woke up.
I just woke up. This is who I am.
It's true.
I woke up like this. We flawless.
Really quick, I want to say to everyone, hello, hi guys, I love you all. Can Jingles have the tinfoil hat? I don't know what that means. But hi guys. I want to say really quick, I have I have an undergraduate degree in speech language pathology. I have a minor, I got a minor in disability studies. And so just to kind of let you guys know, when it comes when it comes to asking questions, you can ask any questions to me, even if you think that they're dumb. I promise you that there's no way to learn and to like reprogram possibly harmful previous understandings without asking an embarrassing question. So I am comfortable with you asking me questions that you think might hurt someone else's feelings. You're allowed to ask me. I think that's just really important just to put out first, because otherwise you don't want to ask someone who's not comfortable to answer those questions and then hurt them. So yeah, just out right there, out in the beginning, in front of it, ask whatever you want. But otherwise, yeah, I'm really excited. I'm excited to get into this, and I am an open book. Flip through my pages, baby.
Flip through my pages. I'm excited. And I will say, I know Jingles is a close friend of mine, so I know Jingles personally, and Jingles is a very open, accepting, intelligent person, although they will try to say differently, and I can yell at them politely about it later. So truly a great person to ask whatever question you might have. 100%. I can vouch. Okay, so without further ado, my first set of questions would be specifically, you studied speech language pathology specifically, correct? Yep. So it's often shortened to SLP. I know that much. SLP for speech language pathology, but can you kind of give an overview of what that means?
Yeah, so speech language pathology is SLP is typically like the term that we use for the people who work in the program. So like if you have an SLP, that's someone who works either in a school, in some corporate offices have SLPs, hospitals will have SLPs, and they work as someone who they're not necessarily a doctor. Like you have a doctorate
Hmm.
because it's a graduate program. Some of them are immediate doctorate, some of them are to PhD. It just kind of depends on like what you're wanting to do in terms of um your career, right? So like
Hmm.
I have an SLP undergraduate degree, which means that I could go and be an SLP assistant, which is someone who, as it says in the name, assists an SLP. SLPs are often employed at schools, at hospitals. Changing loudness a lot. Yikes. Is that better? I'm moving a lot. I'm so sorry. Um,
Hmm.
SLPs work to assist children and older adults who are experiencing um, either injuries post traumatic brain injury, or if they were born disabled, they'll often have like developmental disparity where like we often work with like kids who have autism who are nonverbal. We work with kids who
Hmm.
are experiencing other developmental delays.
Hmm.
We work with people who have fallen or have experienced strokes. Um, there's like a lot of, I can get into the weeds later.
Hmm.
That is a really, really brief
Yeah.
synopsis of what we do. It's kind of hard to explain fully.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of getting the sense that it's that speech language pathology by itself is a really broad category that encompasses a lot of different things.
Mhm,
And it's funny, and you will know this. There's somebody in my life who I care about, very immensely, who works in special education, and so she works with SLPs, and she references that a lot. And I understand the idea of
mhm,
what sort of speech language pathology is, but she also references them in terms of the actual workers. So yes, my SLP, right? So my speech language
mhm,
pathologist, that person. But she
mhm,
also references OTs. So
mhm,
do you? And I know there's probably a lot of overlap because whenever you're dealing with somebody, especially that has a developmental disability or traumatic brain injury, um,
mhm,
you're kind of having to address a lot of different parts of the person at once. It's not just, oh, I'm literally here to teach them how to pick up a spoon. It's, well,
mhm,
I'm also navigating the other complexities of their condition and their disability. So
mhm.
my next question would sort of be, in is it like an applied therapy? Are you doing some kind of a therapy like an OT, or can you be like a research SLP, or is it more like you're directly working with patients?
Yeah, so one, great question, LOL. But we work with a lot of different the field is incredibly vast. I would say
Mhm.
we work with OTs and PTs all of the time. I wouldn't say
Mhm.
so much as in schools, but we do work with um like if you are in a corporate setting and someone who works at your company has tripped and fallen and experienced a traumatic brain injury,
Mhm.
if the company is like a good company, you know, in the best possible circumstance, an SLP is hired um, to make sure that healing post TBI, that's what a traumatic brain injury is shorthanded to,
Mhm.
um, post TBI, they are experiencing like everything that they could possibly do to get them back to or as close to 100%.
Mhm.
So we're not perfect, obviously. But like in a school setting, SLPs are helping kids who maybe need help with their language. Some kids have
Mhm.
lisps growing up,
Right.
or they round their R's so that they talk like the disco and Marueda that I'm always doing. That is an actual,
Uh-huh.
that is like something that we do with kids. Some kids just have a hard time with their R's. That's a developmental delay.
Mhm.
Um, we help adults post stroke. There are research SLPs. That's something that you can go to either postgraduate degree or post. Oh my goodness, what's the really big one? Uh, when you get your doctorate, oh, your PhD, you can go into research. There's a lot of things that you can research. There's also I you can one of the classes that I took in college was speech science, which speech scientists are technically a different thing, but we work with them, and a lot of people who enjoy speech science also have an SLP degree, like as their undergrad, or maybe
Mm,
they got like 2 graduate degrees. There's a lot of overlap there. A lot of people also go into audiology if they have the time. And
mm-hmm.
then there's also ENTs, which are ear, nose, and throat
Oh,
doctors. That
wow.
is, yeah, that uh, requires 2 different degrees. It requires a doc, like an actual degree to like be a doctor because they perform surgery, and then you can also get your other degree in either audiology or speech. Um, so there's a lot of overlap. We work with a lot of different people.
Yeah.
Um, and it also just kind of depends on like where you're working in terms of like funding.
Wow. So I didn't realize that there were so many specialties that require or utilize speech language pathology in some way. I didn't realize an ENT had to study or would study SLP. That's really interesting. Also, welcome in Aki and Sabine. Hello. I think you guys come from, I know Aki comes from Jingle's corner of the world. For
Hi
if you don't
guys.
know, we're doing an interview segment regarding speech language pathology, disability, chronic illness, and neurodivergency. And Jingles is showering us with their beautiful brain juices. Uh,
Ren is correct. You can also go all those different ways.
mhm.
Sorry.
No, it's totally okay. Also, welcome in, Caster. Hello, hello. If you guys have any questions, please go ahead and ask. We are super excited to have this conversation. So, if you go the
Mhm.
other direction, you get towards psycholinguistics, phonetics, and classic linguistics. So,
Mhm.
okay, interesting. So you do, depending on what you end up wanting to pursue after sort of studying the broadness of speech language pathology, you can work directly with patients. And it seems like a lot of people do, but it
Mhm.
really depends, right? An audiologist is so different than somebody working as, child support in a school setting, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Yep.
so Interesting. So, but you've talked about specifically wanting to go into audiology, is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. I want to
Mm-hmm.
work with patients with hearing loss, patients who need cochlear implants, patients who need
Mm-hmm.
normal hearing aids, quote unquote normal hearing aids. Um, but that's a whole different graduate degree, and so it's a little bit, a little bit
Yeah.
muddied.
So I guess SLP is sort of the foundation for understanding. I mean, I guess speech and language and how they present in human beings. And then from
Mhm.
there, it can be applied to a lot of different things. Because I mean, it makes sense, right? If somebody's, for example, hard of hearing, which again, there's that person in my life who's very important to me, who's also hard of hearing and wears hearing aids. Um, you know, speech might look different. They might have a lisp, right? They might not be able to really communicate verbally whatsoever, or in a way that's, I guess generally intelligible. Like she would talk about how, as a child, there were supportive options for her as a child to learn how to, there's ASL, right? Signing. So learning sign as a means of communication. She wasn't allowed to engage with sign, which was very unfortunate. But then she met with a specialist, and maybe this is somebody underneath this field, but a specialist who she would touch their throat and face to try to understand the sounds that they were making, because she really couldn't hear anything. And they
Mhm.
would help work with her to kind of create the physical form of the throat and the face and the mouth to create the sounds that she wanted to make. Is that something you learn about in like this really broad SLP, or is that more specialized?
Yeah, so that is a modality of like teaching language, teaching
Mm-hmm.
like acquired language, right? Because there's language that like we develop um as someone who can hear, like
Mm-hmm.
typical, we talk about it as typical or atypical, which is very scientific. And if you're offended by that, I'm so sorry. That is just the easiest way for
Right.
me to
Yeah.
describe it to everyone. Typical childhood development, your ears work 100%, right? When you are born with atypical hearing, um, whether that be sensory neural hearing loss or a bone conductive issue, or conductive hearing loss, um, there are a lot of different ways to teach like language after or before you get fitted for hearing aids.
Mm-hmm.
That is definitely something that SLPs can help with, but that is one a very old school way of teaching
Right. Mm-hmm.
like language. It's not super used now just because hearing aids have gotten a lot better as well. Um but tactile, just it requires a lot of like patient consent that is hard to, with how our current um like setup medically is. It's just
Mm-hmm.
hard to like get all of that consent. Really
Mm-hmm.
quick, Casser asked if speech teachers are o- occupational therapists. We're not. We work with them a lot. OT is something that like older individuals tend to have. So in this
Mm-hmm.
case, speech teaching is like for little kids in elementary and high school. Those are like the government pays those kinds of SLPs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Occupational therapy is usually with older individuals who are still working. If they are, if it's occupational, that means that they like aren't retired yet.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they fell and broke their hip and they need to learn how to like get out of a government issued vehicle. That's what an OT would do. Um, if they need other therapy treatment, then they're seeing a PT. And we work with PTs significantly less, but they are still someone that like we may interact
Yeah.
with because like our patient is seeing them and us, and we need a full comprehensive medical
Right.
file. You know,
Yeah.
so like we would be in contact, but like not direct.
Okay. Um, so in studying speech language pathology, it sounds like from what you described, there's a lot because it's a sort of the study of, communication disorders and how the physical body, can communicate. So when you physically producing speech or, physically hearing speech, there's a lot that goes into the whole function of, hearing and,
Hmm.
thinking and then communicating and all that. So in the study of it, you've mentioned things like kind of almost the psychological study of linguistics or the cultural study of linguistics. I remember you talking about the Kiki versus Booba topic,
Hmm.
which I know is
Yeah.
kind of silly, but it also is kind of a, it that sort of a topic of there is a psychological component to speech and communication, and there are actual phenomenon for that sort of a thing. So when you were studying for your degree, what kinds of courses were you taking? Is it linguistics? Would you take psych courses?
Yeah.
I mean, what were you studying?
So, every high school is or every college is a little bit different. In my case, the speech language pathology program was pretty small.
Hmm.
There were only about 40 people in my graduating class, which means that they couldn't really overload us because people were gonna drop out if they did
Right.
that. So we took, um, here I have, this will help remind me.
Jingles has
Uh,
college notes for us.
I do. I'm looking at them right now. So one of them was Introduction to SLP, and that one was like a brief overview. That's a science course that like anyone in any program could take,
Mhm.
but I had to take.
Right.
And then we took anatomy of speech and swallowing.
Uh-huh.
We took my goodness, the speech science, and then hearing science. And then we took a lot of developmental speech courses. So like a lot of people in my program want to work with kids.
Mm-hmm.
I did not, so
Mm-hmm.
that was something that
Mm-hmm.
I just hated. And then you have to take a writing course for that program. And that one is a little bit different because you have to learn how to like write in medical jargon and advocate for your patients in a way that's still
Oh.
professional. And then we took a couple speech language pathology assistance courses. Um, this one is on childhood language disorders. And then because I was interested in audiology, I got to take I took 2 classes that were specifically just audiology, and it was basically me and like 4 other people sitting in a room and talking about hearing loss and getting to
Mm-hmm.
like look and manhandle some hearing aids, which was really cool. We didn't get to do that in any of my other classes. Um,
Oh, very cool.
that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely, I took a phonetics course, I took a linguistics course, I took statistics, which was awful. I took
Hate
psych.
stats.
Stats was awful. I took a psych class, which I had already taken a lot of psych in high school, so I didn't
Mm-hmm.
really need to, but it was an easy, 3 credits.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Statistics was, I have talked about statistics on my own channel so many times, it's the worst.
I hate it
Um,
so bad. Oh my god, it was
yeah,
awful.
yeah, yeah, it was rough. I don't know how I like know people who enjoyed it, and I'm like, what is wrong with you?
I know.
But yeah, it just a little bit of everything. I had a lot of extra credits though, so I got to take fun classes too. I took
Mm-hmm.
a mythology course, and then I got my
Mm-hmm.
minor in disability studies as well,
Mm-hmm.
and I took every course that was in that program, even though I think you only had to take like 3 or 4.
Right.
um,
So the reason I asked is that I think I want everybody to understand just how broad this is because I'm trying to wrap my head around it too. And it's so broad. You're looking at anatomy, right? So the physical body, the science of
oh, I
speech,
took a
which
neuroscience class as well.
okay, so neuroscience too. I mean, we're going, there's a lot of information here. The science of speech, I'm assuming that speaks to, areas of the brain and, the literal function of speech, how we speak, functional hearing, how we hear. And then obviously because you're studying it in terms of supporting other people, you're looking at different disorders. So childhood disorders, and I know you said a lot of people, want to work with kids, right? But obviously there are adults with disabilities. We're 2 of them. Hello. Hi, everybody. We're 2 people with disabilities. Lots of specific writing courses as to medicinal shorthand, which is a whole freaking hot mess. Patient advocacy, which is great. I'm so glad that they had that. So there's just a lot here. A lot of information that goes into understanding this very broad category of SLPs. And it helps me to understand too, right? Okay, you're learning how to write medically and you're, studying the science of hearing. So yeah, I could see how an audiologist could come from having an SLP degree. And then, phonetics, linguistics, all these different aspects to language and communication. Just incredible amounts of information. We do need more people working with disabled adults.
We do.
We
Yeah,
really
it's rough
do.
out there.
We really do. Pink asked, what made you choose this field over other healthcare paths?
Yeah, so actually Rodeo Mom got me interested in speech to begin with. I had wanted to go and teach like English. I wanted to teach like writing and language, and I wanted to be an English teacher really, really bad. I wanted to teach in high schools. I was really, really blessed. I got to go to a great high school. Like I went to a charter school, so just kind of, public in that it's, still a public school, but I had every teacher that taught at my high school had to have a graduate degree in order to teach.
Oh,
Like
wow.
anything.
Wow.
So which is like something that you're never going to run into unless you're at a private school,
Mm-hmm.
which is unfortunate. It's incredibly unfortunate. But
Mm-hmm.
that was, you know, what I got out of my high school experience. And so it made me really love um, kind of like the best that teaching has to offer.
Mm-hmm.
But teachers don't get paid well.
Yep.
um,
Yep.
and so when I was applying, especially in our state, yes, yeah, Arizona is like 46th in education or something.
Jesus.
So my high school is very, very special. Um, but when I was looking at applying to the college that I attended, because it was the only one I wanted to go to, um, my mom was like, "Hey, maybe you could do this, and then you can still work in a school if you want, and you'll actually get paid." Like speech language typically pays between, oh goodness, 5 and 6 figures,
Mm-hmm.
depending on what, like, who is employing you. If you work for
Mm-hmm.
the government, it pays a little bit less. If you work for like a, well, kind of, I don't know, it's a little bit finicky. If you work at a college, it pays enough. But
Enough.
she was like, "Hey, you can do this, and worst case, if you don't like it, you can always choose to go into teaching again." And I went, "Okay, I'll do that." And then my freshman year was really, really bad, and I almost dropped out. And then because it was COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took my first disability studies course, and that was like, "Oh, this is really fun. I'll stay in college for this if nothing else." And then I took hearing science, and I fell in love with hearing science. And at that point, well, I'm already a junior. I may as well finish. And so I did. Um I don't think I think I have a lot of self doubt, and so I don't think I could have gone into any other form of healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
Just because your brain gets so full of like all of the things that and what if you mess up a
Yeah.
patient forever?
Yeah.
And so, this was
There's
like the
pressure.
perfect middle ground. Yes, there is so much pressure. This was the perfect middle ground for me to be like, "Oh, well, I'm still doing good, and
Right.
I'm not, breaking anyone's brains." And
Right.
that's enough.
That's enough. That's good for me. I can get paid. I don't have to, break everybody and traumatize them forever. Also, welcome in, Bailey.
Mhm.
Hello, hello. Pink says, "Yep, I feel this entirely. I don't think with my concoction of brain stuff, I could have gone into healthcare. LOL." I do think,
Yeah.
and I do want to get onto this topic, although I do want to ask you about hearing science. But I do think that it's interesting because some of the most motivated people to generate positive change for other disabled people are disabled people. But because we work
Mhm.
in a system in a society that doesn't work for us, it's so hard to be able to even help ourselves on a day-to-day basis, let alone go into these fields. Because I mean, medicine is already so inaccessible, period, for just the average person. It's expensive, it's incredibly draining, physically taxing. You essentially have to have it made in order to go to medical school unless you get incredibly lucky. And then if you want to be any sort of therapist, I mean, the thing is, you have to be really in tune with yourself to know that you're not overwhelming yourself or burning yourself out. And for a lot of disabled people, we go a long time in our lives without truly understanding what's going on, especially with psychological or neurodevelopmental disabilities, especially because they're so underdiagnosed, especially in certain populations. So in particular, right, if we look at, a lot of AFAB people do not get diagnosed with ADHD and or autism when they do have them because it presents differently, and the science behind it has been for a long time and still is in a lot of ways very misogynistic and sexist. And I think especially I think you could have so many good points about this because I know what like socially educated, empathetic human being you are, and reading some of the things that you studied in terms of disability studies and patient advocacy. I think we get to a really cool conversation about that. But before we do that, I really do want to ask you about hearing science, why you fell in love with it, and what about it was just so interesting to you.
Yeah, I think first off, I once again, I really just got lucky over and over and over again.
Hmm.
Um, my college had two different professors who taught the hearing science course. And the
Hmm.
semester that I took hearing science, the professor that taught it opened the first class by saying, if you bought a textbook, you should return it. I'm not going to teach out of the textbook.
Okay.
I have written a PowerPoint that is like, oh my goodness, I think it's like 600 slides.
Jesus.
I have it saved on my, because I wrote on it. It's in my notes somewhere. Let me see if I can find it while I talk. He gave us this PowerPoint and said, everything that you will ever need in this course is right here.
Hmm.
So there's photos of just like ears. There's just really nasty photos. There's pictures of um bugs in kids' ears. There's photos
Mm.
of a brain with no cochlea in it, like a post dissection. Sorry,
What?
medical stuff is gross. To anyone who's grossed out by that. Um, like it just has everything. It's incredibly comprehensive, and that was so fascinating. And I fell in love from that day on. Yeah, it's 300 slides, so not 600, but it's a lot
But
of
a ton.
photos. Yeah, it's a lot. Um, and it just I can show one day I'll show people who aren't grossed out by it because I find it really, really interesting. But just the order that he taught the class was really fascinating. Um, he was like, okay, whenever I decide that like we've learned everything that we're gonna learn in a day,
Mhm.
you're gonna go home. And if it's 30 minutes into an hour and a half lecture, then that's fine. Well, our lecture was actually 2 hours blocked out, but I don't think we ever stayed longer than an hour and 15 minutes.
Mhm.
Because he just like knew when we were done. He just had a feeling.
Mhm.
And I was really lucky to get that.
Mhm.
I could show you sometime, Ren. Maybe I'll do an ear stream one day. But I just found that really interesting, and then I interviewed him on my own time after that. And he was just really direct with me about like what audiology actually looks like, and he um was really excited to see me interested in audiology.
Mhm.
Um he was a great, great professor. And then later, when I met the other audiology that taught or audiologist that taught at my college, he was even cooler than the first guy. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is awesome. Like, what the hell? And so it was kismet. Like
Mhm.
I feel like audiology and I met at like the best time, and we fell in love. I don't
And we
know.
fell in love. And
Yeah.
then we were KISSING in a tree. And then we
It's
had many,
true.
many bababies.
It's
Many, many
true.
nasty ear
Yeah.
babies.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I do think we're in an ad, but I wanted to say I think you should, because I'm looking at all of these things that you studied and I go, "Oh my god, you don't talk about this, but this is so much information in one brain, dude." I think people would be so intrigued to listen to it. And the little tidbits you bring up sometimes, I just go, "How did you just turn something as silly goofy as Kiki and Booba into something that named a phenomenon that I never even thought about, you know?"
Yeah, I mean, I think I think it takes a certain person to be able to be like, "Oh, the ear, something that's incredibly gross and people have uh, you know, weird feelings about, and just
Mhm.
like falling in love with it." I think I think that says a lot about me. I think also like I've always found medicine really interesting,
Mhm.
and the brain really, really interesting. Linguistics is fun. I don't. I I like linguistics. I don't like the rules of language, and those are not the same. but they are often taught in the same day, and I don't
Ooh.
like that. But I find linguistics, I think phonetics was also something I loved, and I think if I could go and be a phoneticist, I would do that instead because that's really interesting. Um,
Phoneticist.
but my college didn't have that, and so I couldn't. Phonetics is the study of language sounds. So we have our own alphabet, and we have linguists are the people who came up with Kiki and Booba. That's true. That is true. Um, phonetics phonetics the phonetic alphabet is something that you can use to basically understand speech sounds no matter where the person was born, no matter what
Mm-hmm.
language they speak. It's incredibly interesting. There's letters in that alphabet that I could not even begin to explain to you because the American English tongue cannot make those sounds.
Mm-hmm.
That is so cool to me. And so if is it what you see in the dictionary or is it different? It is similar. Sometimes the dictionary is unfortunately wrong, but that's because the American English dictionary um is only American English, right? Like if you had a dictionary that had every word of every single language spoken and well, you couldn't even because some languages don't have written forms of their speech. But like if somehow you could, then it would be then yes. If you go on Wikipedia, you can often find transcription. And it's often right. But there's like glottal sounds that,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, the American English tongue and mouth are not capable of making.
Mm-hmm.
And those are sounds that you can only find in like genuinely tribes in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is really, really cool.
Yeah,
So you
there are
go into the
some.
history of those sounds. Sometimes it depends.
Well, sometimes because I've gone down the rabbit holes of etymology of words and sounds too, and a lot of the times, just in my my googling, is sometimes origins are really hard to kind of pinpoint, or it's
Hmm.
things are so broad because I mean basically you'd have to be able to track it back to the first quote unquote language ever spoken, but language isn't always spoken, right? I mean, and that's a function or a facet of disability. Language can be signed, language can be drawn, language can be, completely just understood. Body language exists, right? So there are a lot of different ways to communicate. And I would think that would be part of being if you were specifically a speech language pathologist, but a lot of these different specialties where you work with, disabled children or adults, from my understanding, some of it is also you're literally helping make language accessible for them because for the sort of abled communicator, I don't know if that's the right term. There are probably better terms that you could yell at me about, but not saying you would yell at me, but you know what I mean. um we learn to speak, right? I'm speaking English right now, and then I can learn other languages, and they do have those sounds that are not present in the English language. But for those that can't, that or significantly struggle with speech, there are other methods of communication. Maybe
Hmm.
maybe that's a cool tangent to go on. What are some other methods of communication other than just speech and writing?
Yeah. So obviously, I mean, you talked about it a little bit earlier. There's speech or there's sign language, which is like the oldest form. I think like sign language is something that like because so humans need to be around other people.
Yes.
And so body language and sign language are some of the oldest forms of communication that don't involve speech, right? Like obviously body language is something as simple as like putting my hand out to touch someone who's going through a hard time, right?
Hmm.
Like that is a form of language in itself and it tells you like I'm here for you.
Hmm.
S- Sign language is a little bit more finicky because each language has its own recognized form of sign language. And so like English sign language is different from American sign language, which is where you
Mhm.
get the ESL versus ASL. Um, there's also AAC devices, I think
Mhm.
is what they're called. Right? AAC device. Yes, AAC, augmented and alternative communication. Some of those are like iPads, and some of
Mhm.
them are just like a board that has words written on it that a kid or an adult or anyone who's disabled can point to tell you that they want an apple for lunch,
Mhm.
or um, there's a lot of different forms. I mean, if you want to get into the weeds of it, there's oh my goodness, Stephen Hawking,
Mhm.
right? Stephen
I
Hawking.
was just thinking
He
about that actually.
had he had a device that would track eye movement, and that's how he would, and then it would speak what he like tracked with his eyes. I had a professor who had cerebral palsy in college, and he was nonverbal. So he wore
Wow.
a helmet that had like a stick coming out of it, and he would poke at letters on a letterboard. And then he had a
Wow.
reader, a speech reader, who would sit next to him and say out loud what he was trying to communicate to the class. So there's a whole bunch of
Yeah.
different forms, language dialects, sign language dialects, like Ren said. Yep. Um, it's super duper interesting. There's so many uh that I don't even know about. Like it's
Mhm.
really really interesting.
It sounds like that, there are some sort of common communication devices. So obviously speech and writing and sign language, body language, these are all very, common normalized forms of communication. But then even with assistive devices, it looks like it's just kind of whatever you can make work for the individual. I mean, I
Mhm.
know, for example, this person that I've referenced, a lot of her students have AAC devices because they are completely nonverbal. So they use iPads with oh my gosh, I can't remember they use a lot of different softwares, but
Mhm.
they have some preset buttons that the kids can press to say, I want an apple, or I want food, or I need to go to the bathroom, or what have you. And
Mhm.
then some of the OTs and the SLPs will more so the SLPs will work with programming those devices
Mhm.
to for example, some kids are not at the point yet where they can actually form sentences by themselves, but they can understand that when I press this button, this person will take me to the restroom, which is what I want. So, okay, then we're going to have pre-programmed sentences. But for some children, it's okay, they can formulate sentences. So maybe we'll have individual words that they can put together into a sentence, whatever is accessible to that person. But listening to you talk about your professor with cerebral palsy and that helmet with the antenna and the speech reader, I've never heard of that. That is so cool. I'd never heard of that as an option.
Yeah.
And obviously Hawking's device was, at the time, sort of one of a kind, especially. I know it wasn't, but given that he was so in the public eye, obviously really, really cool. But it seems like sort of the job of somebody, if you're working with somebody who is disabled and struggles with, communicating in a more commonplace way, I guess, um, that you kind of just have to get creative as to what's going to work for that individual.
Yeah. Disability, uh so like there's the spectrum TM, but disability in general is a spectrum. And so um and you can make the argument that like I personally believe that like the spectrum TM is so much more broad than like we even
Mm-hmm.
understand.
Oh,
I've talked
preach.
about it a lot in my classes that I took, and a class that I created in order to be taught at the college that I attended. Um,
Created?
I my senior year of college, I needed to take a Socratic seminar course, but it was at the same time as another course that I needed to take that was for my major. And so my professor, the head of my minor program, met with me once a week for an entire semester, and I got to do something that I wanted that he would then give me a grade for that told the college that I could graduate. And so
Wow.
he came to me and was like, I think you would be really great at doing this. And he gave me like an idea and was like, make this into a college course. And so I did. And like that, what I made for him is like gonna be taught in a couple of years, I think.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I didn't know that.
It's something I put on my resume, but you know, I'm not teaching it, and so it I don't bring it up very often. But
What?
when when my professor and I were talking about it, like we would just get into it about autism and
Mm-hmm.
ADHD, and like I genuinely believe that like
Mm-hmm.
autism and ADHD are the spectrum. That is the spectrum. ADHD I don't think exists without autism.
Ooh.
Um personally. And I know that there's like a lot of misnomer about that. A lot of people might disagree with me about that, and that's totally okay. That's what science and education is for disagreeing. But like the overlap is so,
Mm-hmm.
and as the years and years grow and like people are getting addicted to their phones and all of this other shit,
Mm-hmm.
you're just seeing that like maybe autism and ADHD are two sides of the same coin, and the coin is actually a brain. The Venn diagram is really a circle. It is. And so when I'm talking about the spectrum TM, I usually mean like disability or autism, ADHD. You could even throw in some personality disorders. I genuinely think like neurodivergence is a whole other cake. And
Mm-hmm.
then there's a spectrum, which is just that like disability is a spectrum. And through your life, disability is non-linear. And
Yes.
so to get back to what I was originally saying, like there's just you make you make your assistive devices and your world tuned to you. And if
Mhm.
that means that you use a piece of paper that has words written on it and you point to them, then you use that. But if you can afford to get nicer things and those things will actually help you more, then
Mm.
I recommend those. But it's a little bit of everything for, you know, everyone. And the financial aspect is a big part of that.
Right. Yo, absolutely.
Unfortunately.
Being disabled is not cheap in this world,
Mm-mm.
especially not in America. I think one theme, and it's something that I really need to internalize too, I think we all do, um, is that I think you're right. I don't know. I was talking, one of my exes, her mom was a research psychologist. So she had her PhD in psychology. It was something specific. I don't remember what her dissertation was
Hmm.
on, but we would talk a lot about how there's this, and we're going to go into the social media of it all, but there's this idea in the world that there's something like a neurotypical brain, and that, you know, there is a way that these mystical, perfectly neurotypical people function that, you know, neuroatypical people just don't in any way. And we both said that that just doesn't make sense. We all, and Pink and I kind of touched on this in our conversation too, that all of us at certain points exhibit in small ways, you know, symptoms of a lot of different disorders, of a lot of different neurodivergencies. It doesn't inherently
Hmm.
make it a disorder, but it also doesn't make you neuroatypical, in my opinion, or neurotypical, because what is a neurotypical brain? What does it mean to be neurotypical, right? There isn't some,
Hmm.
my name is Bob Joe and this is what a regular brain works, right? I'm doing big air quotes, by the way, super big sarcastic air
Hmm.
quotes. But I kind of think that's how it works with all you know, mental disorders and disabilities, is that I don't know that I could really say that anybody is just not at all atypical. I guess I think that's dishonest. And we got some good comments, but I want to hear your thoughts on that in just a second.
For
Like
sure.
phone addiction has to also do with your environment because who wouldn't be addicted to their phone living in the USA? Yeah, life sucks. Exactly. Not only that, but also being on the phone and distract is a good way to manage symptoms like pain. Yes, yes. It's a
Mm-hmm.
coping mechanism. And
Mm-hmm.
I also kind of this made me think about um this idea of, a lot of these things they're classed as neurodevelopmental, but if you exhibit all the symptoms of that disorder and we start to be disordered in our daily conduct and you qualify for all the symptoms, do we maybe need to shift the diagnostic criteria? I don't know. But what do you think about this whole idea? I like everybody's a little bit neurospicy and about the neurotypical brain, especially with your specialty. I wonder, is that something you talked about in class?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I'm gonna answer your question by saying a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't sound like it's answering your question, but I swear
Okay.
it is answering your question.
Okay.
I I almost want to wait because I see that we're in an ad, but I can kind of go around it first for a little bit. So when I took disability studies the first day of class, my professors, because it was co-taught, like I said, the person who taught my disability studies introduction course, there was a guy named John and a guy named Michael. And
Hmm.
Michael has cerebral palsy, and
Hmm.
or Matthew actually is his name, not Michael. Matthew has cerebral palsy and was fully online because COVID was happening, and
Hmm.
when you have cerebral palsy, you can't be around people who are sick. You can't, because that could send you into the hospital, um, even if it's the cold, you know. And so there was John and there was Matthew, and they taught from two different perspectives. John had previously been disabled but was not currently disabled,
Hmm.
and Matthew was currently disabled.
Hmm.
And part of talking about disability studies is there are two frameworks that we look at. They're called models. One of them is the social model, and one of them is the medical model. The medical model tells us that Matthew is disabled because he has cerebral palsy, right?
Hmm.
That is what makes him disabled. The social model tells us that Matthew is disabled because the sidewalks are not easily maneuverable when you're in a wheelchair,
Ah.
and buildings are not easily maneuverable if there's a second story and no elevator. And that is what disability is. Disability is that the world cannot
Right.
accommodate you, not that you cannot accommodate the world. And those are two very important frameworks to look at. And we're constantly
Ooh.
looking at both of them all of the time because both of them are correct, right? Matthew is disabled because his brain does not function in the way that a typical quote unquote brain works. That's
Hmm.
accurate. That is true. His body is not operating in the typical way.
Hmm.
However, if buildings made it easier to if the elevator was right in front of the building, or like when you first walk in and the doors are wide enough for you to get into them with your wheelchair, you
Hmm.
walk right in, and to the left there's an elevator that you can access all of the time. That makes it less disabling
Hmm.
because it is made for you,
Hmm.
right? um that that is also an active and uh correct way to view disability. And
Hmm.
so that's why I'm constantly telling people to accommodate for themselves. Um, like use your accommodations, whatever they may
Right.
be. We can talk about diagnosis till the cows come home. I would
Yeah.
love to. I think diagnosis is disabling. I think it is necessary.
Ooh.
That is true. Diagnosis is incredibly necessary. However, the uh in the US right now, getting a diagnosis for an adult female in the college town that I lived in,
Hmm.
there was one woman who did specifically AFAB, autism diagnoses. And
Hmm.
when I talked to my therapist that I was seeing at the time about them, she told me that without insurance, it was thousands of dollars.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Why?
Incredibly expensive.
Why is it that expensive? What could you possibly need all of that money for?
I wouldn't know, honestly. I don't have an answer for
Right?
that. You'd know better
And
than I do,
so
and you're saying what you're saying. So
it's like it is it's so like those systems don't benefit the people who actually need the diagnoses.
hmm.
So you have to create accommodations for yourself. And if that means sometimes that like you're going to self-diagnose and when people ask you if you are blank diagnosis, you have to lie, do that. Do you get the accommodation either like get the accommodation if you can get the accommodation.
Yeah.
Create accommodations for yourself. If that means that like well, okay. I will say medication is a completely different field.
Yes.
If we're looking at the social model exclusively, make your house accommodative to you.
Yeah.
Make your house accommodative to the people who may be entering it. If you have a friend who's in a wheelchair, try to put a ramp on your front door. If that means you
Hmm.
get a bunch of plywood and you make a ramp every time they come over, do that. But like diagnosis is incredibly disabling. Um, it requires you to know yourself on a level that a lot of people don't know
Hmm.
themselves. It requires you to uh, like be willing to admit that you're disabled. Disability is so hard to experience. It
Hmm.
is. And so to be ready to acknowledge that you might be disabled in whatever form that that may take, that's really hard.
Hmm.
It's really hard.
Hmm.
And so my opinion on diagnosis is that as long as you're not hurting yourself and you're not hurting the people around you, and you're not maybe taking drugs that a doctor has not told you you should be taking and given you a
Hmm.
prescription of,
Right.
that is important.
Hmm.
Um, like if saying that you have ADHD helps in any way and changing how you operate, creating notes on your phone that give you a list, that is accommodating your ADHD.
Hmm.
If I'm having a hard time cleaning my room and making a list and posting that list on like the wall of my room will help
Hmm.
me get my chores done, I'm
Hmm.
going to do that. That's an accommodation.
Hmm.
So it's
Right.
it's a part of it is learning what an accommodation is
Yeah.
in the first place and then
I
utilizing them in your everyday.
absolutely. I think again, it is so important for everybody listening because I know so many people here are neurodivergent or chronically ill and or disabled, yada yada, right? Whatever. A lot of us are spicy in the brain and in the body. We'll call it that.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
please, 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 if something can help you go about your day-to-day life in any way, do that thing. Invest in that thing. You have no idea how much of an impact it could make on your day-to-day life. Please accommodate yourself because the world is not going to accommodate you as it works right now. And that's unfortunate. I wish it did. I wish it did. I wish the world worked for us, but the system does not. And it is so important that not only it's a deeper form of self-care because, and I do want to talk about this too, finding accommodations for my different disabilities and chronic illnesses is slowly making an impact on my life that I really couldn't have foreseen. And I cannot
Mhm.
express enough how important it is. And I wanted to read, got some comments. Oh my God, scroll. The sidewalks are either small, rocky, or there's no way to get into a store building without needing someone to help move your wheelchair. Yeah, no, I remember, and again, the ADA exists, the Americans with Disabilities Act exists, but so many businesses that people are so ignorant still. They just don't, it's like they're just clicking buttons to set up a business or set up a school. Because, for example, in the college that I went to, when I first went out of my state for college, um, the entrances are supposed to be disability accessible, right? So somebody who's in a wheelchair or somebody who uses a walker or a rollator or what have you should be able to easily access the entrance to the building. However, the button to activate the automatic door never worked. It just never worked, and it was reported so many times. So there were people in wheelchairs who could not get inside their dorm buildings. They could not get into their rooms, and they basically always had to have people around, which this is also an accommodation, always have somebody around in order to let them in so they can just rest, so they can go to bed. And then the elevator, there was only one elevator, right? So if people were using it, you were just sitting there stuck for however long. It was just a poor system, and there are so many examples of the world being inaccessible for disabled people. But I remember seeing a video too of these automatic delivery robots on sidewalks, and there's somebody in a wheelchair who is taking a video of the robot in front of them, and the robot was literally stopping in front of them so they couldn't move forward. I mean, what the hell? What is that about? What is the programming where you say you see this object? I guess it's that it sees something and stops so it doesn't run into it, but the person was behind them. So why? I don't know. I didn't understand it. But the world is not designed for accommodating people. It's designed to basically have you sell your soul and sell every aspect of who you are in order to be productive. And that's the whole capitalism of the system. Social stigma is already Caster says social stigma is already bad enough as is regarding disabilities. Absolutely. And then Waffle says disability awareness movement, Capitol Crawl. Oh my God, that makes me cry. I'm certain you know about the Capitol Crawl.
Oh yeah.
The photo of that little girl. I could cry right now thinking about. Literally, I'm getting emotional thinking about it. I remember that image, and it's just, I sit there and I say, God damn, how can you people not get it? I don't understand. This little girl has more bravery and strength than all of you stupid people sitting in seats in the American government. She's sitting here crawling her way up the Capitol steps to tell you something, right? And people are just so unwilling to listen. But we all need to accommodate ourselves more. I do think something you said, so the diagnosis is disabling. I love that. You said some really powerful things. In fact, I want to send these to you as quotes because they are so good. And I'm so glad I'm taking notes. But diagnosis is disabling. So, I mean, there's the piece where it can be so expensive. I was blessed that my autism diagnosis and evaluation was covered by my insurance. That is not everybody's experience. I know that much. But then the other piece of it is to know yourself that deeply, to know that you have these conditions. It basically requires therapy. Like, you have to. You don't know these things off the bat. I mean, going back, your parents have to be incredibly well versed, and then they have to, not be biased and in order for you to have a chance to understand yourself as well as you need to, and then willing to admit that you're disabled. That's hard for me. It's still hard for me to admit that I am disabled. I know that I am, right? Literally, but I usually just default to chronically ill, because if you look at me on a day-to-day basis, I quote unquote look abled, right? I can walk, my body looks healthy. There's no reason why somebody would outwardly assume that there's anything going on behind the scenes. And so I almost feel like we talked about this concept of stolen valor when I say that, and I know it's so psychological. And it's part of why we don't go for our accommodations, is because we feel so insecure about identifying in different ways. Is that something you also talked about in these various courses, this idea that, people identifying as disabled and how difficult it can be to kind of self-identify and then seeking accommodations that way?
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult when you're looking at disability, physical disability versus neurological disability and neurodivergence, right? So
Yeah.
Often the system in America is set up to look and feel like there is one big pie, and everyone gets a slice of it. And when you get your slice, there's no more pie after that. That is not how the system should be. The system should be that there's an infinite amount of pie and
Mm-hmm.
everyone can have a slice
Mm-hmm.
because there's more pie left over.
Mm-hmm.
And so the part of the problem with self-diagnosis is that if you're wrong and if you're wrong, you've taken that spot from someone else who needs it,
Oh, okay.
which is not a reality. Well, it should not be a reality. I don't work in the government, so I can't give you an actual number, but like
Right.
it should not be a reality, but it often feels like it is.
Mm-hmm.
Accommodations are incredibly limiting and are limited. And when you're trying to get accommodations with a job, you have to fight tooth and nail just to get like an extra 15 minutes to decompress in between like hard projects at work, you know? Why do I have to fight so hard for that? It's 15 minutes. It's 15 minutes, you know? So we do talk about that a little bit. It's also important to acknowledge language. There's person first and identity first. Person first language says, I am Jingles and I am autistic. Identity first language says, I'm autistic. Person first says, like, my name is blank and I am a person with blank. And identity first says that I am that thing, and that should be enough. Both are valid. You can you can choose whichever one you prefer. I like identity first language because like I like that I'm autistic. I think it's an important part of who I am. I think it frames a lot of my conversations. It's important to me that people know that I'm autistic because like we've talked about this on our own. I'm incredibly honest, almost to a hurtful degree. I can be painfully honest, and I can hurt people's feelings, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to hurt someone's feelings if I'm very frank with them. And so letting people know beforehand that like, yeah, I'm someone who's autistic, and that means that like, you know, I'm gonna struggle with being blunt or non-emotive or over-emotive. It kind of depends on your flavor.
Right.
That's important. That's really important to me. And so I prioritize that kind of communication. But some people don't like that because they want to be seen as a person before they're seen as their disability. So some people, when we're in class, I think he would like make us write down which one we preferred on like a name card, and then we would have to like talk to the other kids in our class. And I really liked that. I think that helped communication across the board. But not everyone might like that. Not everyone wants to acknowledge that they're disabled. Disability is an incredibly private thing for something that often people can see, which makes it kind of becoming disabled is a process of grief. You have to.
You are on fire, dude.
You have to like experience the loss of something, even if you thought you weren't disabled before. Like to find out that you're autistic means that you have to like look back at all of these times in your life where you didn't perform to the social standard, and then like grieve at the fact that like I was the last person to know. Like sometimes you're the last person to know.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
Me.
It's hard. Right? Like elementary school especially, I think, is a great way to look at it because kids are fucking brutally honest. Kids are mean, and they don't mean to be, but like I mean, the joke is that you can't ask someone if they're pregnant, but like kids will often be like talking to someone who is bigger and being like, "When are you having your baby?" Like that
Right.
literally happened to my
Yeah.
mom, and she was like, "I had a child 6 years ago. I don't know what you're talking about." That is
That was
literally a
funny.
story that I can remember. Um, and like kids don't mean to be mean, and
Mhm.
sometimes they do, but oftentimes they're just blunt. And so when a kid notices that you're different, they're going to let you know. They're going to let you know. And so I was bullied for a really, really, really long
Yeah,
time, and
me
I did
too.
not know that I was. I did not know that I was different until
Um,
literally like 19.
mhm.
And so that is, like I said, a process of grief. You have to reorient um kind of everything in your brain to make sure that if you don't want people to know right away that you're different, you have to be hyper aware of the ways that you're different and then not do them. And I think that's why I prefer like identity first, because like I am autistic and that's going to frame every interaction I have until the end of time. And
Mhm.
if that means that you don't want to interact with me, then that's okay, you know?
Interesting. I have a point that I really want to get to because you said a whole lot of things and you made some really good quotes, but I want to read some of what people have said. I saw Screech came in. Hello,
Mhm.
hello. Um, I like identity. Ren says I like identity first too because I'm as red haired as I am autistic. It's intrinsic. Period. Absolutely love that. I love that. This interview just reveals why I feel so incredibly safe with Jingles. I know, and I want to speak to that in just a second. Jingles, I'm gonna read you a little bit, I think.
Okay.
And then Ren says, for me, I didn't understand I was different till I was 28, 30. So yeah, hardest of hard agree. Oh, and then Waffle says, related to diagnosis, um, gave me a rec to see a psychiatrist, and she said I seem to have ADHD, but I'm not bouncing off the walls or anything, so it's not severe. I guess I've been told since childhood to keep still and stop being so hyper, so I found ways to cope and keep myself from being annoying in that regard. Okay, there's a lot of language in there that I feel that can be picked apart.
Mhm.
The one thing I want to say to you is that ADHD is not necessarily about bouncing off the walls. For example, I don't have
Mhm.
hyperactive ADHD, right? I
Mhm.
have inattentive type, and my evaluation, when you actually get evaluated, at least in my experience, it was very thorough. So I understand how my ADHD manifests in my brain, and what that looks like in terms of how I struggle individually. Um,
Mhm.
so I will say that much. Um, ADHD is a lot more than just running around and being, distracted very easily. There's a lot more to it than that.
Mhm.
But I understand what you're saying that, you know, I had people tell me, like Jingles, you know this. I had so many people tell me, hey, something's a little spicy up in there. And I would go, really? Are you sure? I don't know. I feel pretty normal. And then you guys were like, no, no. And I wanted to say something because it's actually, I feel like I can relate to you really hard on this. And I'm really glad you said it. So this was the point I wanted to make. You said that I can be very blunt and I can hurt people's feelings. And I relate to that very deeply. And this is actually one of the reasons why I wanted to pursue an autism diagnosis. It's because I have been told by every single person, and people who love me to this day and people who do not, it does not matter. Every single person I have
Mhm.
ever known at one point has said, it seems like you're mad a lot of the time. And I will
Mhm.
go, what are you talking about? Because I don't know what they're saying. And
Mhm.
Pink and I had a discussion recently as to this because, and Pink, if I don't know if you're still listening or not, right? Love you, Pookie. You're a big time friend, right? This is so not any kind of negative. But she explained that in a moment it seemed like I was angry, and she felt bad about asking if I was or not. And I said I wasn't, but I get that a lot, and it's why I pursued the autism diagnosis, because I would then ask people to tell me or ask me, do I seem mad or am I mad, right? And so you
Mhm.
said you can hurt people's feelings by being too blunt. But I will say, I think there's a caveat there, because when we had our really big yap sesh, when I asked you guys if you would just listen to me, and you guys listened to me for like 3 hours,
Mm-hmm.
and ingested so much information, what I did was I was very clear, and I said, these are my boundaries, right? I want you to be honest with me. I
Mm-hmm.
want you to, if you have meaningful advice, I'm open to that, but I want you to understand that right now this is a very sensitive topic, and trying to change my mind is not something that I'm going to take very well, and it will make me upset. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I will tell you that with that framework, I mean, you said beautiful things that you were direct, you were honest. And I don't know if it's that we're
Mm-hmm.
both neurodivergent, but there was nothing you said in that whole process that was harmful or mean. It was blunt and direct, but it wasn't harmful or mean. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason I say that is because I think that's part of why the identity first language is important. And I think it's also surrounding yourself with people who understand you and understand how to accommodate you.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would need something like that in order to know, like with autism, rules are our pookies a lot of the time. We
Mm-hmm.
love when there's a rule, when there's something, okay, I know what I need to do, and then I don't have to worry about whether
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing it right. So,
Mm-hmm.
in that situation, it's not, I know that feeling of my bluntness is mean to some people and this, that, the other, and I can understand that, but I also look at the perspective of, you can be blunt and incredibly kind and loving and say exactly what somebody needs. They just also need to communicate,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? You get what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying?
Yeah. I think I will say to bounce off of that while
Mm-hmm.
being vague. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I will say no neurotypical friendship I've ever had has um had a conversation in which the neurotypical person has gone, here's a boundary.
Yeah.
That has never happened to me before.
Yeah.
But when there is a boundary, I know where I can and can't overstep.
Mm-hmm.
Boundaries are great for autistic people.
Mm-hmm.
I would like if every conversation had boundaries so that I knew that I wasn't making a joke that someone might find distasteful.
Oh, really
Or like
interesting.
being like as
Go ahead.
someone who who likes being funny, I often will leave a conversation and be like, oh my god, I really like their face didn't look like they were upset by that joke that I made, but I know that that joke could have upset their hurt their feelings, and I really hope that it didn't, because that's not
Mm-hmm.
what I'm going for. So I leave conversations being incredibly anxious all
Mm-hmm.
of the time,
Yeah.
and that almost is never the case. They're almost never actually mad at me. But like, you made an accommodation by setting a boundary, which is something that like neurotypical people don't consider and don't do. And thus, relationships with neurotypical people are often, in my case, not common.
Yeah.
um, and so
Right.
I do like that's something that would never happen in a quote unquote normal relationship. Um, but it did mean that like I got to not overstep boundaries while still giving you my opinion in the nicest way I could.
Yeah.
So that you made an accommodation for yourself and me and
Exactly.
everyone else in that call, and I don't think that that would have happened if you were quote unquote normal, you know?
If I was normal.
Yeah.
I would be so boring. I would be bored of myself. and
True.
annoyed.
I would not be funny. So
I would be literally a rock. That's it. I would have no thoughts,
Mhm.
nothing interesting about me. Well,
Mhm.
rocks are cool, actually. Never mind. I take that back.
And the tism is showing.
Anyway, I could go into a talk about minerals, but that's not today's segment. That might be Hill's segment though.
I was gonna
do,
say, yeah.
yeah. um, I know a lot of people are talking. They're making really good points, but I do want to say, I think there is something about who you surround yourself with. I think this is a universal thing. Who you surround yourself with is really important. And it's okay if we basically solely surround ourselves with people who are neurodivergent, because they more often know how to communicate in ways that is mutually beneficial. That's the thing for me, is that a boundary, whether we're talking about it from a neurotypical or neurodivergent perspective, should be
Mm-hmm.
mutually beneficial because it's protecting both people. For example, in that situation, I'm telling you, you know, if you overstep this boundary, it's going to make me upset. So I don't want
Mm-hmm.
to be upset, and you don't want to make me upset, and we don't want to get into an argument. So everybody wins, right?
Yep.
Um, it should be that way. I think that, and this it hurts my brain. I think the thing that I notice the most is that neurotypical people think that things are communicated when they're not. I need very
Mm-hmm.
explicit communication. I need you to tell me exactly what you want from me. Do not mystify it. If it's something you're holding inside and I'm just supposed to guess based on body language, I'm going to get confused and I'm going to miss something. And
Mm-hmm.
this is why I say, tell me very directly, right? There's a very low likelihood I'm going to get hurt by what you say. If you are telling me directly, I do not like it when this happens. I will just say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I will not do that thing. I get it. Perfect. And this has frustrated me very much in all kinds of relationships because that I don't know if it's the same for you with your autism and your neurodivergency, but I need people to be clear with me. Otherwise, I miss things all the time, and then I misunderstand people, or you know, in relationships, I've made mistakes, quote unquote, made mistakes that I didn't even know that I made because nobody said anything to
Mm-hmm.
me, right? And it's so
Mm-hmm.
frustrating, and then I have to sort of apologize after the fact and go, but I didn't know I did anything wrong, and I would have done something different had I been given the chance, you know,
Mm-hmm.
to understand. Have you experienced that? It's very real for me right now in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think it's especially muddied by the fact that like um just to get a little bit into my history, right? Uh my family, this is not critical of them. My family did not know what autism looked like except for an over exaggerated um look that we see on like in from Rain Man, if you've seen that.
Yes, I have. Mm-hmm.
Right. And like people did not know like what neurodivergence, people still don't know, right? But
Mm-hmm.
even like my family truly all thought we were neurotypical. My mom is saying it in the chat. My family is like the last thing from neurotypical I think ever, which I love. I think it makes our family dynamic easier for me
Yeah.
to maneuver in. But like that meant that like I did not feel like I was any different until my school experience. Yeah, so autism back in like the 90s and early 2000s was like only in boys,
Mm-hmm.
and only meant that they like could not speak English, or if they could speak English it was, or like, you know, could not speak, and if they could it was incredibly like muddled and slow. It often meant that like, you know, they had some other outward portrayal of it. Look into that however you want. But like autism was a very, very different thing back then. And so when we as a family unit started to realize that like we've been masking this whole time and no fucking wonder we're exhausted all of the
Yeah.
time. Like being socialized as a femme person um means that like girls are emotional, and girls are quiet, and girls are not allowed to be moving
Mm-hmm.
around all of the time because that's for boys. Like there's boys will be boys, and that means that they are rambunctious and rowdy
Mm-hmm.
and are allowed to do whatever they want. um and in that case, that meant that like the boys in my class who like had a 504 or an IEP, which are like things that schools
Mm-hmm.
have that mean that like certain kids can like listen to music if they need
Mm-hmm.
to, or they get to go walk around and decompress or whatever. There were two boys in my class who had IEPs and 504 plans that allowed them to like stand during class. my elementary school was like sick crisscross applesauce at all
Me
times.
too.
Everyone gets a square on the floor.
Me too.
And these boys got to stand in a square in the back of the classroom. And all I wanted was to be allowed to do that because
Hmm.
I had so much energy. But
Hmm.
because they did not know that I was, different, like because my family didn't know, the school didn't know. And
Right.
because the school didn't know, I did not get those same freedoms. And
Hmm.
so I had so much energy and my grades were just awful because I could not concentrate in the classroom. And teachers genuinely did not like me because I was too talkative.
Yep. Been there.
And so like being um treated differently, like teachers hated me until
Mhm.
I think middle school. And like when you know that a teacher hates you and you don't know why, all you want to do is like make them like you.
Mhm.
And that's
Right.
so hard. It's hard
Right.
to make a teacher like you when they haven't liked you for so long. Too talkative and too emotionally mature and independent. Yep. And so it was just impossible for me to make anyone not find me obnoxious. Um I was not compliant. Yeah, I was not difficult, but I just wanted to do things in a way that like teachers were not prepared for me to
Right.
want them. And
Yeah.
so then you get diagnosed and
Right.
everything changes and it all
Mhm.
starts to make sense. And this is what I mean by like grieving.
Yeah.
Like I have to look back at my childhood and be upset that I had teachers that didn't like me. Um
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I had a lot of good teachers. Mr. H, he was my science teacher, my 6th grade, 5th and 6th grade science teacher, and he had sons who were exactly like how I was. And so he really helped my mom and dad with those hard years. And middle school was really really bad too. But
Mhm.
like genuinely um it is I don't even remember what the question was. I'm so sorry.
No, just keep talking. I mean, we're neurodivergent, right? This is what we're here for.
Yeah. Oh no, mom's and ads. Um I'll try not to talk about anything too important. Um, it was just a really, really rough time,
Mhm.
and it meant that there was a lot of miscommunication or total lack of communication, um, and so like like I said before, I am AFAB, and I was raised femme,
Mhm.
and so that meant that like diagnosis was incredibly difficult. And as someone who is overly emotional, I would say, like
Mm.
the typical neurodivergent lens is like autism is something that you're blank faced.
Yeah.
You speak very monotone. You can't read other people's facial features. You don't recognize certain emotions, and I would say that I don't experience almost any of those things. I think I can be very monotone when I'm not masking, but I'm
Mhm.
masking all of the time.
Yeah.
I'm masking all of the time. And so one, I'm exhausted socially
Right.
all of the time, and I can't um when you finally either are forced to stop masking because you don't have the energy to continue to mask, or you're in a safe space where like when I'm home I'm not masking, and
Mhm.
so I'm pretty blank faced in calls with friends, and I'm more monotone. But
Mhm.
like it's so rough until that point, and that means that like you don't get diagnosed, and it's incredibly frustrating. But like I said, if you make accommodations for yourself, it gets a hell of a lot easier,
Absolutely.
I will say.
Absolutely.
Like I
I
said, I
took
forgot where I was going, so
It's totally fine. It's again, Pookie, we're neurodivergent. It's totally
I
okay.
know.
Wherever we go, it's totally fine. It does not
Okay.
need to be linear. I took some notes of some things that you said that I want to touch on, and I'm going to read some of the comments because people were really into what we were talking about. And I'll get back to it. So Ren says, "My God, I got treated for repressed anger instead of burnout and ADHD in the ADHD clinic. They nearly didn't give me a
Ugh.
diagnosis because I was not bouncy enough. Jesus Christ." Ugh, that is so, it's so ignorant in the medical system too. I could go on and on and on about why do you go to medical school to be a doctor to just be useless at being a doctor? Why? Why?
Yeah,
Why?
yeah.
I don't understand. I don't understand. I was there for 6 weeks. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. That had to be so traumatic. Waffle says, I want to see another psychiatrist, but I'd have to go outside my clinic, and I'm worried about my insurance not wanting to cover it. I totally understand that. There are options available. I was really lucky in my diagnostic process that almost everything that I have pursued has been covered by insurance. So there are options out there available for you. And if it's not there for you right now, as Jingles has said a lot, but I will parrot, accommodate yourself either way. Whatever you can do, learn yourself, sit with yourself, understand what helps you. And regardless, because you're going to need to do that regardless. Yumi, you always have such good points. Ugh, I love you. Restricting autism, ADHD, or any sort of mental disability or disorder to one characteristic, such as overly hyper or sad or quirky, etc., never fails to make me angry because it is so much more nuanced than that. Yes, some people are just genuinely misinformed, but others refuse to educate themselves, and it's so irritating. No. It is. You touched on this a little bit too, that, you know, autism is seen as very specifically one, you know, type of person. We're emotionless and we don't understand emotions, and you know, maybe we're not super verbal, what have you. But I think another thing is that because you're autistic, and this is true of, so I have level 1 autism, for clarity. There are levels to autism diagnostically. We can have a conversation about that too, I'm sure. But the other thing is that it feels like they think that autistic people can't understand social interactions and nuance and subtext. And that, in my case, that does happen. It does. As I was saying, I can't guess what people are thinking and feeling. You have to tell me, otherwise I'm going to miss it. But another thing that I can understand is that something that affects the brain is going to have more impact than just somebody bopping their leg around, right? If it's called attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, it's going to do a lot more. It's not the leg bouncy disease, right? And, you know, I mean, it's not. That's not what it is. That is a manifestation of ADHD. It doesn't mean that that is ADHD. It's just what you associate with ADHD. So maybe that is being really strict about the rules of what the word means, that I'm just going, of course it doesn't work that way, because that's not what it means. But then people will say, oh, well, then you're not autistic because you could just said all those words and understood that in a very nuanced way. And I'm like, I kind of disagree with you. I think it's the fact that I understood it that way that shows the autism of it all, you know?
Yeah.
And I do also think that we were talking about earlier, you know, a spectrum of, and I wanted to get back to this, the spectrum of ADHD to autism. I think that was such an interesting point because of the overlap. But I appreciate that point, Yumi, a lot. And Waffle is saying that they also feel anxious because they feel like they said something wrong. I totally get that. Because you always have to guess. It's a guessing game. Because if people won't tell you. And then Yumi's comment here. I'm the same way when it comes to rules. I can't tell if it's because of a disorder like autism that I'm slightly suspecting, just can't get a diagnosis right now, or if it's because of experiences I've had, like people or family lashing out due to me messing up a task they gave me, shrugs. So I will say, in my diagnostic process, my neuropsych was really, she took a very holistic view of my life. So I reported about childhood experiences. She got reports from my previous therapists. She went over all these different aspects and gave me a full comprehensive evaluation. And she took into account that I have childhood trauma and that would manifest in certain ways. And we had a discussion about that. And the thing is, she said this very clearly, you can be autistic and often you will be traumatized, right? Especially in childhood, like you're gonna be traumatized. So the two things can exist together. There's an option where it's both. And then your mom talking about finding, out that you're neurodivergent later in life and how it impacts your work, you know, not ethic, but like energy and being where you are. It's just, it's a lot on a person. It's devastating in general. to learn those things, as you said, for that grief process, which I wanted to talk about. So this was one of the notes that I had. And I actually genuinely think this is going to be a topic in my therapy session this week. So you're giving me really good fodder, because I
Hell yeah.
haven't sat with it. I haven't sat with, me as a kid in school and thinking about how I was treated by teachers and by peers because of what I now understand about myself. But I do remember how good it felt to finally have one teacher who saw me and said, yeah, if, for example, when Trump was elected the first time, I was distraught for obvious reasons. I was at a viewing party with my friends to watch the results of the election because we were so sure that Clinton was going to win, like so sure. It seemed so obvious. And that night, I remember all of us just in total shock. We turned off the TV and everyone just went home. We didn't even say anything. And the next day, it all hit me like a truck. I was sobbing. I didn't sleep very well. And I spoke with Mr. Stott. Love you, dude. Mark, Pookie. You are mega Pookie. I love you down. No, I love him. He gave me video game recommendations in class. It was phenomenal. And I think he was autistic as well, but I don't know for sure. But that day he said, if you need to go take a walk, go take a walk, right? If you're not able to focus, I know you'll learn it. You'll catch up. It's not a big deal. Go take a walk, right? And I did. And it made me feel a lot better. And I got some hugs from, other people who were upset. I happen to live in a very liberal corner of the world for the most part. So many people were very upset. And actually, thinking about that in the context of that felt so different because it was one of the first times that a teacher felt like they saw me and saw, wait, this is affecting you and impacting you differently and you just need something and I can give that to you. It's like, oh my God. I think it's part of what I want to think about is that it sort of spiraled into this, wait, I can ask for the things that I need. I can ask for those things and they can be accommodated. And I think without realizing it, it kind of spiraled me into understanding that I can take up space and validate these things. Not at home, of course, but in my own mind and with my friends. And I haven't really sat with how traumatizing it probably was to be neurodivergent and not know it in school. I mean, with regards to my parents, sure, but it is traumatizing. On a day-to-day basis, it's traumatizing, but even the things you said, just a teacher doesn't like me because I talk too much. It's like,
yeah,
you weren't talking too much. You were just expressing yourself. You were engaging, right? You were showing your interests and you were wanting to show that, you were a good student and that you were interested, and it just got completely ignored. That's so, I want to say I'm sorry. It's so sad, right? I think about little baby Jingles and I think, oh, you just really wanted to engage, right?
Yeah, I think it's rough. I do want to say that like I was definitely talking when I shouldn't have been talking. Like it's not that like my teachers were horrible. It was really like one or two teachers that really didn't like me. Like I said, I went to a really good school, and so a lot of my teachers, even if they thought that I was being obnoxious in terms of, well, we're trying to learn something today, Jingles, can you shut the hell up? They would find me amusing, I think, which was really nice and validating to experience. But also just like sometimes I want to say there's a lot of overlap in neurodivergence and like trauma. You said it a little bit earlier. There is, we think, a link between late diagnosis and early BPD in general. With specifically femme, but I think like gender is a social construct, and so like a lot of it is like shit that we've made up, but like
right.
there is a tie between not receiving necessary accommodations via an early childhood autism or ADHD diagnosis, and then um, either completely shutting down, which is something that people with borderline personality disorder experience, right? There's a manic episode,
Hmm.
there's mania, and then there's depression. Um, People tend to, if they don't get an autism or ADHD early diagnosis, they tend to either completely repress, um, and then you get depression, or wanting to earn quote unquote attention by becoming uh not becoming manic, because that's not how BPD works, but
Right.
acting out more. And and so there is like, I'll be honest, I have a borderline personality disorder diagnosis, which
Hmm.
like my family knows. Like I had got that diagnosis because of some other like insurance stuff,
Hmm.
but like my therapist, when giving me that diagnosis, said, "This is just for insurance. I don't
Hmm.
think that you actually have quote unquote BPD.
Hmm.
However, people who don't get an early diagnosis tend to experience these anger issues because there is a trauma in not receiving what you need."
Hmm.
There's trauma in that. There's trauma in fucking everything. It feels like
Dude,
um it's
preach.
it's inescapable.
It's in the
Um
water.
like, oh my goodness, my dad genuinely thinks estrogen was split into the drinking water, and that's why trans people are who they are. Oh my.
Oh,
I feel so sorry for you,
I'm
Yumi.
so, yeah, I'm so sorry. That is
uh,
awful.
I'm holding you. I'm holding you. I think I'm cradling you in my arms. Um, but there is definitely like, it is so hard to like, I experienced the same thing the second time Trump became president.
Mhm.
That night we had a watch party and a whole
Yep.
bunch of my friends came, and then it started getting red really, really quick, and
Yep.
people started leaving because they needed to go home and
Hmm.
process the fact that we were
Yeah.
about to experience some of the worst next 4 years that we may ever experience in our life. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't fall asleep that night until like 4 in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
and I woke up the next morning at like 7 because I had a morning class at 9:30. And I looked at my phone, and then I turned off my phone, and I went out into the living room, and I cried on the couch for
Yeah.
almost a full 24 hours. And I have
Oh,
never
jingles.
seen my partner as concerned about me as he was that day, because it truly felt like the world was over.
Hmm. Yeah.
And in a
Yeah.
lot of ways, we were not all that far off.
Yeah.
However, it is very, very important for me to tell all of you to persist. You must persist. You must continue to exist. My mom said it very poignantly earlier, but the world that we wants to be created as well. And the more of us that are alive, the more likely it will to happen.
Yeah. I've been absolutely, and I was right. I understand, empathize very deeply with what you just said, because that's pretty much how it was both times that he got elected for
Mm-hmm.
me.
Yep.
And I've been sitting with this idea of, what we want in our lives, what we want in the world. The only way that we can achieve those things is by being in it, right? By being the
Mm-hmm.
people who want those things, by being the people who do the things to create those things. If there aren't disabled people in the world will not accommodate, which again, we can get into, is anybody really not disabled? Eventually you will become disabled. Being disabled is not linear, yada, yada. But,
Mm-hmm.
if we don't exist, the world we want will never exist.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to keep going. We have to keep understanding and learning and doing the hard work. And I think the one saving grace, it is hard and it's exhausting and it's devastating and it's painful, but
Mm-hmm.
finding people who understand that and understand you and are you that you feel so seen by. And I'm gonna get into it again because I love our friend group so much. Finding those people where you feel so safe, you know, and you can just be. I wouldn't trade that for the world. That is priceless. Give me millions and millions of dollars, it doesn't matter. Give me, you know, a lot of things, it would not matter, because I know if the world actually ended, it would be us in a bunker with the camouflage paint and flamethrowers, like sitting this out together. And there are a lot of people who wouldn't have that otherwise. And we're intelligent people. We are caring people. We're empathetic people. We are people with our own, you know, quirks and identities and different facets. But also, all of us just sit there and go, okay, that's who you are. And I'm here for who you are. And it doesn't matter what that looks like. And that is just so rare. And I think it's becomes more and more necessary for people. I wish more people would take stock of the people they surround themselves with. You should be surrounded by people who make you feel good and who accept every part of you. And I know that's a cliche, but you should not have to feel like you are masking all the time. I get sometimes we do, right? Sometimes it happens, but you should also be with people who you should be able to say, hey guys, I'm starting to feel like I need to mask. I need to go take some me time, right? You know, I love you guys. I love hanging out, and that it should be fine. It should be okay. And the more spaces we create like that, the more likely we take up more space on the planet. More of the planet turns into that thing, right? Also, thank you to the gifter who gifted Rodeo Mom a sub, so she doesn't have to watch ads anymore. I don't know who that was, but thank you. You can make yourself known.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Hell yeah. And there's some other technical things that I think could be interesting to talk about as well. Building a community is how we'll turn this thing around. We need community. I think that's the reason why everything fell apart, is that there's no community anymore. None. Even in communities, there's no community. And you and I have talked about this too. Like, community doesn't mean anything. I wanted to talk about how we talked about the idea of self-diagnosis, and I know this is a hot topic, right? But again, the whole point of this is, you know, open conversation. And my mind, I don't really have anything in my mind that I'm not open to amending. But because you are somebody with so much knowledge, and you're very intersectional, and it seems like you were educated in a very intersectional way throughout your life. So you mentioned that self-diagnosis is, if it's used in the sense of trying to accommodate you and make your life easier, and it's not hurting anybody, right? Then it's perfectly fine. I know in the professional setting, is that still the sentiment? Do people feel that way?
I mean, unfortunately, I'm. It really depends. If we look at it from like a hearing loss perspective, it's really hard to, like, quote unquote self-diagnose hearing loss or speech issues. However, over-the-counter hearing aids are coming out countrywide right now. And you don't need a diagnosis for those. And the audiology field has talked a lot. Like, I feel like 90% of my senior year was talking about, like, are these gonna fuck with, like, actual hearing aid distribution? Like, and I think people don't realize that they self-diagnose all of the time. And so I think if the self-diagnosis is really good in the short run, I don't know how good and useful it is in the long run, but only because I'm only experiencing everything as much as everyone else is, but I
Hmm.
do genuinely think that self-diagnosis is crucial and critical. Um Even if it is just a stepping stone for official
Yeah.
diagnosis. Um if sitting with the thought that you might have a condition is hard and you feel like you need to, you know, tell people that your X condition in order to help yourself get, not get over it, but like feel seen by by that diagnosis, then do it. I think people do that with like their gender identity and their
Oh yeah.
sexuality all of the
Hmm.
time. Like I as someone who is now pretty outwardly and proudly like queer,
Hmm.
um high school was all about me coming out all of the time as a bunch of different things. And
Yep.
that experience was like crucial, I think. Because not only did it like help me come to terms with who I am now,
Hmm.
but it helped me like weed out the bad. Sometimes you come out to someone and they're a dick to you, and
Right.
to not keep
Right.
them in your life. And I think self-diagnosis can serve the same function.
Hmm.
Um, and so personally, I don't really care
Hmm.
what the medical field feels about self-diagnosis. And I know that that is whoa. How could you
Oh
say
my
that?
god. Right.
Um but it is so hard to exist in the 21st century, and if we want to say with our full chest that community is like important and crucial to the progress of our country and science and everything else, um maybe you find community with a bunch of other people who are self-diagnosing.
Yeah.
Diagnosis gives you community,
Hmm.
right? Like, I love that both of us are autistic and can
Hmm.
talk to each other autistically
Yes.
and talk about our experiences as people with autism
Hmm.
and talk about the struggles of like being autistic and being um like people who have to function every day. Oh
Hmm.
my
Yep.
god, I have to have a job,
I know.
right? Like
Oh, I know.
that is I could not have that same conversation with anyone that I know that's allistic because they don't get it in the same way that you get it, or that my mom gets it, or that my dad gets it.
Mhm.
And so, like, I think that that's great. I really I really enjoy that, like, I have a community of people who are also autistic or
Mhm.
got other stuff going on.
Other stuff
It
going on.
also like in getting to know Pinky, I mean, bring it back to
Mhm.
our favorite little mushroom spore. Um them talking about their experience as someone with OCD has really helped me come to terms with the fact that I might have OCD,
Mhm.
which I've been saying over and over that I think it's really important to like be open and also experience grief, and that disability and is disabling
Mhm.
and it is a grief process. Um but also like coming to terms with the fact that I might have OCD is a really hard thing to wrap my brain around
Absolutely.
because all my life I have been like, no, I definitely don't have OCD. And now Pinky and I will like sit and talk about it for a couple hours and it's like, oh no.
Mhm.
Oh
Oh.
no. This
Huh.
is interesting. And so
This
I can um when I look for a psychiatrist or a therapist,
Mhm.
I might want to look into someone who specializes in OCD treatment.
Hmm.
and see if that works for me. And if that ends up working for me, and then I find out that I have an OCD diagnosis, then, maybe socially saying, yeah, I think I might have OCD isn't that bad of a thing. Like I said before, I think if it isn't hurting anyone and you're not hurting yourself by, maybe, like I've said before, taking drugs that you should not take, don't do that,
Right.
guys.
Don't
Don't
do
do that.
that.
That is very, very important. That is so important.
Right.
Um, like and that is gonna help me. I'm a big proponent for just like letting yourself fucking experience your life as you are meant to experience it. And if that means that you tell people that you're autistic, then who gives a damn? It really is not hurting the scientific landscape if
Hmm.
you say you're autistic and you're actually not, because they're not going to write down your fake experience in the next DSM.
Right. No, exactly. And because they would typically be operating from, if they were taking, samples, they would be taking them from people who are diagnosed anyway. So it's a net zero. It doesn't
Yep.
it doesn't
It
make a
literally
difference.
hurts no one.
Yeah. Your point here, I've talked about it a little bit, but I think it's really true. You said people don't realize they self-diagnose all the time. I mean, we do it with everything. Oh, well, I think, for example, right, I still have some chest congestion and some cough. And at first I was like, okay, I think these are just seasonal allergies. And when the symptoms presented at the time, they looked like seasonal allergies, right? So I started treating the seasonal allergies with over-the-counter medication, not anything prescription. Please, again, don't do that. Please don't experiment with prescription medications. But so I treated that and it progressed. And then I thought, okay, I'm looking into this and maybe it could be some mild bronchitis as a, secondary thing to my allergies. And I started treating that. And then a nurse confirmed, yeah, that's what this sounds like. And you just need to kind of wait it out. So long as it doesn't get worse, that's likely what it is. And that's okay when we're talking about basically any other thing. It's okay to have that thought process, and it's obvious to have that thought process. I mean, I wouldn't diagnose myself with cancer, right? But you go into a doctor's office and you say, hey, I'm really lethargic and I've got this weird lump in my leg, or my leg really hurts, or you have these symptoms, and your doctor investigates what's going on, right? You go into it knowing that something is wrong or something is off, and you receive support to understand what just that thing is so that you can treat it properly and get better. But there is a different perspective when it comes to mental health. And I think it's because mental health is held to this weird, different standard in almost every circumstance, that, you do, when you go seek a diagnosis, something is off, or something. You may not know exactly what it is. You may not have an idea. Sometimes you do. For me, for example, I kind of had an idea of what was going on based on everything people were telling me. I've had people literally say, hey, I think you should get evaluated for this. I had some people tell me, oh, no, I don't think you have that, whatever. But I knew something was off and I wanted to understand it. And I went to understand it, and a professional gave me some pointers as to what that is. Now, diagnosis is not accessible for everybody. You explained it can be very expensive. It can be, physically inaccessible if there's not a doctor in the area, or, it can be a pain and a hassle. I remember you and Brandon talking to me about, exaggerate your symptoms because doctors don't listen, right? And they can write things off as being mild when they're not necessarily mild. So a lot of doctors don't diagnose properly because of that. So there are a lot of, reasons why diagnosis doesn't happen in the way that it should anyway. But you already know something is off. If you're going to do something to help yourself, then do the thing to help yourself. It doesn't make a difference, right? And if that thing just so happens to be very specifically an OCD treatment, then I think it's fair to say, hey, I think maybe OCD is going on here. And then you identify with people who have OCD. You talk with them more, and it net hurts nobody, because then you can go to a doctor and say, I've been trying these therapies and I've been talking with people and it's helping. And I really think this is something that I struggle with. So at the end of the day, it helps everybody to understand yourself more and find community. Gee, I wonder why. I do, though. I get worried because there are people unfortunately on the internet who do things for attention, or they're dishonest about things for attention. Like a lot of people have come out, it comes out that they've lied about having tics and Tourette's because there were people that blew up at certain times and they were sort of copying them. Or this one person who said that they had this really weird case of DID where they were a two-person system and they were in a relationship together and they could switch, they were
Mhm.
switching all
Mhm.
the time. And came out that they were lying about it and this, that, the other.
Mhm.
So that's why sometimes I get hesitant, because I'm not saying everybody's out to lie, but they can, the world is full of so much misinformation, especially about mental
Yes.
health. And this is another thing
Yes.
that my ex's mom and I would talk about a lot. These TikTok psychologists don't know what the hell they're talking about. Like, unless they
Nope.
are a PhD or MD or somebody who went to school to study, they don't know what they're talking about. They
Mhm.
don't, right?
Mhm.
If they're giving you medical advice, they really have to be somebody who has received that medical advice from a professional. And even then, I'm kind of like, I really think you should just go to the professional, or somebody who is qualified to give that advice. And that's the other thing I get concerned about. It hurts everybody when there's misinformation. There's a lot of misinformation about autism. There's a lot of misinformation about ADHD. And because there's so much
Mhm.
overlap and it's really nuanced and cultural differences can impact it, I do get concerned about that. And not from the sense of I think it hurts anybody to identify with a diagnosis, whether or not they have it, but more in the sense of it continues to misinform. And then the actual disorder and what it means gets warped over
Absolutely.
time in a social sense. So what do you think about that as sort of a light counterpoint?
Yeah, no, I think that is something that I'm constantly also thinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like half the time that I've been saying the stuff I'm saying, I'm also like, oh, I know people are going to think about that or at least bring it up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm glad that you did. What I want to say first and foremost, as someone who has also seen those things happen, um, is that a lot of the time the people that are faking having a disorder like DID or like Tourette's. Um, to be an empathetic person for a moment, they're doing it because they probably know that something is wrong
Yes.
or they desperately need attention. Some people need attention and that means that they're going to fuck up on the internet. Oh my goodness,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Um But there's definitely like that is not like a neurotypical behavior,
Right.
right? And so first and foremost, like that's maybe a red flag if you know someone in your life that is doing that. Maybe go to them and be like, "Hey, how about we get you diagnosed, buddy?"
Hey.
Um,
Right.
it also to me as someone who's seen it many, many times, it feels like we are being hypercritical of those people um because as a society we tend to be hypercritical of things that girls are into, and it in my experience seems like something that predominantly AFAB individuals take a part in. um a lot of it seems um
Mm-hmm.
like just being critical of people who are not in their rightest of minds. um but also the people who are critical of them are incredibly mean about it. Um
Mm-hmm.
like yeah, it is in fact shitty to fake having Tourette's on the internet. That
Mm-hmm.
is really shitty. And you're fucking up a lot of people's understanding of what Tourette's is, or, insert whatever condition you want here. I've just seen it most often with Tourette's.
Mm-hmm.
Um but also they might say that they have Tourette's and they have another tic
Right.
syndrome.
Yeah.
And so it is important to have that thought of, well, I think you might be lying. um and then just kind of let it bounce off your back like water off a duck.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe this is something I've learned as an autistic person, but like sometimes inside thoughts can stay inside.
Oh,
And if that means that you don't hurt someone's
same.
feelings on the internet, you don't hurt their feelings. Unless you are um like a specialist in the field, I don't think you should immediately attack that person. I'm not saying
Hmm.
that you are in this moment.
Hmm.
Um right? Again, I don't think one person saying some stuff incorrectly on the internet is going to matter in the long run. It's not going to get written about in the DSM. It's going to change a lot of people's perspective
Right.
on that condition, which
Yeah.
sucks. But also, to operate on the internet, you should know to not believe everything that you see on the internet. Um, and so it's definitely a nuanced take. I do think that people um should just be empathetic in that, like, if you think someone is struggling with maybe a personality disorder and they are, faking DID on the internet,
Hmm.
to just maybe be like, maybe in your mind just go, oh, that sucks for them. I hope that they do better.
Hmm.
Like, I hope that they get better in whatever they have that's wrong with them, and then you move on. Um, but I do genuinely think a lot of the time it's that people are hypercritical of AFAB individuals.
Hmm.
Um, because like when uh when a man has a bad take on the internet, there are still people who are like supporting him 110%, and that guy's gonna have the ego the size of
Yep.
Mount Rushmore.
Right.
But if a girl does the same thing, or an AFAB individual or a queer person does the same thing, they're immediately getting death threats, and that is rough. I will agree with Ren. A lot of doctors are also misinformed
Hmm.
because it's so impossible to know like all of the medical everything that's happening all of the time. Misinformation is bound to happen. Preconceived notions and stereotypes are
Yep.
going to change how you view the world. And so, um, I feel like if someone is attention seeking in that way, first and foremost, I just kind of usually go first with like, oh, I hope that they, get what they need. Maybe I don't want that in my life, and that's not a selfish opinion to have. That
Yep.
like sometimes if your friend is attention seeking in that way and you don't have the spoons to deal with it, you don't interact with them.
Yeah. No, you're allowed to set boundaries. The reason I
Yeah.
asked that is actually because when I was dating this individual, her mom is a
Hmm.
research psychologist, and we would have these conversations, and she would get, oh, I need to tell you this in private, who this, because it's a thing. But I'll give you details.
Okay.
But she was very activated by this idea of misinformation. And I understand it to a degree, right? Medical misinformation on the internet is a real thing. And giving people medical advice that is not sound medical advice is dangerous, in my opinion. It's a
Hmm.
very dangerous
Yes.
path to walk. But she would get really upset when people were identifying or self-diagnosing. She's, very, very against it. And I always got caught in the thought process of, but you kind of have to, like you said, you kind of have to either way. And then the other piece of it is that, and we ended up having a really good constructive conversation about this. And we both came to this point. There was somebody, so the person that I was dating at the time was faking and is faking having certain disabilities and disorders. And we do have evidence to that fact. And of course, I loved that person. I still care about them. I don't really want them in my life anymore. But even knowing that, we both were saying, okay, how can we best help this person that we both care about? And we had this really long conversation and went down all kinds of paths. What we both ended at was, if somebody is doing something like that for attention, it still means that something is wrong. The kids are still not all right, is what she said.
Mhm.
right? So there's something that's happening. It may not be the thing that they think it is. It may be the thing that they think it is, but there's still something wrong. And so at the end of the day, we
Mhm.
just come back to what you said, which is have empathy. Always
Mhm.
have empathy, right?
Yeah.
Somebody on the internet, because my opinion is not that, oh, well, I think, these everybody's just lying about stuff on the internet and it's, they're ruining autism for the rest of us. Like it's like you said, it's some pie. It's
Mhm.
more so that I just want people to have a safe space to discover what it is that they are. And I'm worried about people on the internet right now because that's not the case. It is not a safe place to discuss, hey, I think I might have this, or I have this, and self-diagnose that way, or experiment in different ways. It's not a safe place. There is misinformation. There are people that are especially attacking AFAB individuals. It's a very dangerous environment to try to have this conversation in.
Mhm.
And so I'm worried about the implications of what that could mean. But at the end of the day,
Sure.
I come down to, if somebody's doing that, it's just I really want you to get the help that you need to help yourself with that. I don't personally want to associate with a lot of people who do that. That is just something for me because of trauma reasons. But I think that I wanted to know more kind of from the inside what the perspective was, and I do want to address, because Ren and everybody's making some really good points, and I
Yeah.
want to speak to them. So let's see. Doctors don't care. I understand being medical personnel is tiring. There's a lot of patients, some of which can be rude. Doesn't excuse not listening to a patient. Exactly. I don't know
Mhm.
why. Again, like I said, I don't know why they go to medical school if they're going to be terrible doctors.
Mhm.
And then, so Ren, you said I'm not with you on that. Misinformation is bad, of course. Most of my doctors are misinformed. The exchange with patients or people who have the things like ME, CFS, or autism has helped me and educated me much more than actual medical professionals. So
Yeah.
I hope I clarified a little bit. I'm not saying that the internet is all misinformed and that's more of a concern for me than people actually getting care. My biggest concern is people actually getting the care that they need. My concern is more, if misinformation exists in these spaces, then it's, to me, I'm worried about their safety. As Jingle
Yeah.
said, we're really hypercritical of these people, and I just wish people would come to it as, okay, maybe I don't like the way this person is behaving, but something's not right, and I do want to interact with them in that way, and maybe help them try to understand. Um, Yumi says, I never understood why people dislike attention seekers so much. Yes, it can be irritating, but if they're seeking attention, it's more likely than not that they just need help and they're not getting enough. Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm so wary of medical professionals now. You don't know the half of it. I can write medical gaslighting what I want at this point. I don't go. This is another thing. I was raised for different reasons. I've talked about how my father has NPD, and my mother has PPD, and they're both not being treated for it, although NPD is very difficult to treat, period. So it's not saying BPD is easy, but just that most people don't get treatment for NPD, period. But when I was growing up, the thought process was, my father knows better than any doctor, so we just listen to him.
Mhm.
Doctors don't know as much. He would literally call them stupid in the office and just say, he'd say his favorite word was bonehead. He'd call everybody a bonehead. And it got to the point where I literally broke my foot, and I told him, I've broken my foot. This is broken. It feels broken. He just said, keep running on it. Keep running on it. It's tendonitis. You're exaggerating. And he gave me all these reasons as to why. And I was like, no, it's been 3 months and now I can't walk on it without severe pain. We'd go into a doctor's office and he'd just go, they'd say, yeah, it's broken. Yeah, it needs a cast. And he'd go, no, that's not true. You don't know what you're talking about. Turns out it was broken, and we got an x-ray, yada yada. So I already I have this very ingrained sense of I don't trust doctors, which I do need to somewhat get over, because there are doctors that I've seen that have been very helpful for me. Love my therapist, love her so much, love my psychiatrist, love my neuropsych. But the other part of it is that so often I go to a doctor's office and I'll be like, hey, I'm, violently vomiting every single day. I can't eat food. And they'll just go, oh, it's a stomach bug. And I'll think, okay, maybe it is a stomach bug. It's only been a couple of weeks. Then 6 months go by and I'm still throwing up every single day. And they go, yeah, it's still a
Mhm.
stomach bug, just maybe a different one. Just go away, right? And then it's been years and I have still GI issues that doctors just go, I don't know. There was a point where my GI issues got so bad, I was in such visceral pain. I was screaming on the floor and I couldn't control it. I was just bloody murder out of my mouth. I couldn't walk. I couldn't stand. My intestines felt like they were on fire and being stabbed at the same time. And it was this roiling pain. I was wheeled into an ER. My father, of course, just told me to take some ibuprofen. But I was rolled into an ER and they did all these tests and they couldn't figure out what it was. And they said, well, you just basically have to wait until that happens again and then come back sooner. And I was like, okay, fine, great. This is awesome. I'm so excited to one day feel this terrible pain again so that maybe I can get to the ER a little faster and maybe you can catch it, you know, and understand what's going on. But I think part of it is that I wonder, maybe you have a perspective on this from your education as well. It
Mhm.
feels like doctors get so in the theory of everything and the statistics that they forget about the human experience. And I'm wondering if that's part of why, because you minored in disability studies, you're very intersectional, and also I want to say you're a person with a ton of empathy and a very big heart. So you have a lot of care to offer other people.
Mhm.
So do you think that could be the case, or why are they so? Why do they just seem so stupid? I don't know a better way to put it. It's just so ignorant.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is that when you go to college and then you go to there okay, I want to say that there's like a circle of intelligence,
Okay.
and when you have breached the typical number, the okay, so like I'm gonna take it from like I'm gonna answer this in a weird way. So like you know how Ted Bundy had like a really really high IQ,
Uh-huh.
and then he got caught in like the stupidest way possible.
Uh-huh. I love this example.
Sometimes you're so smart that you're just fucking dumb. And that's like that is truly like there is a beauty. I think we have talked about this personally where like sometimes I just wish I were dumber because I wouldn't be as stressed as I am
I
all of
know,
the
yeah, we
fucking
have.
time. And so there is a lot of naivety that like I as a high functioning as everyone loves to tell me I'm just so smart. Oh my goodness, you guys, my ego is out the ass. Um, yeah, smart people are just like kind of dumb sometimes, or they don't have empathy, like my mom says, and empathetic people who are burnt out. The system benefits on doctors being overworked,
Mm,
and while they are paid pretty well,
mhm,
they're not paid equal to the amount of work that they are putting in every day, every week, every year. So part of it is that. Part of it is like right now we're watching that everything involving health is being defunded
mhm,
actively. That definitely fucks with it as well. Um the We're also learning stuff about the brain. Like we're running into issues with like or not neuroplastics, nanoplastics and microplastics
mhm,
that
yep.
like no one else ever before us has had to deal with. And so doctors are also having to like if you're already being worked fucking 80 hours a week and there's new shit coming out every day on all of these different conditions, and these conditions are becoming more and more common. Like we are seeing a rise in autism diagnosis, and
Mhm,
that doesn't have to just do with the fact that this many people have always been autistic. There has to be another um thing. There has to be something else that we have missed. There
mhm,
has to be a genetic tie that we don't understand, or an environmental or something else. Like there has to be something else.
mhm,
um I don't think it's vaccines. I'm gonna be straight up. I think the people that are not
Tylenol.
vaccinating their children are fucking morons. Vaccinate your children. Oh my goodness. Um,
Please.
right? So, like, there is a tie. We don't know what it is. It's definitely not the MMR vaccine. Um, so it's the fact that like doctors are also experiencing everything that we're experiencing right now. So all of the horrors, and
Mm-hmm.
they have to work 80 hours a week, and they
Mm-hmm.
barely get to socialize with people that they don't work with. So like I am overly empathetic towards doctors. I hate to say it. But also I grew up without healthcare. I did not
Mm-hmm.
have insurance, and so a lot of the time, for me specifically, like I kind of live in the self-diagnosis and just like, oh well, yeah, I definitely have, like, okay, I'm like 99% sure I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a joint connective tissue disorder.
I think so too,
um
Pookie. From what you've described, I really think so.
right, and I have friends who have it, and like I'm pretty sure my dad has it, and it's the genetic, and and so I'm not gonna go to the doctor because I can't even when I could, like I am insured now, but like growing up, whenever I found a thing that I was like pretty sure I was sick with, it was kind of just, well, I can't afford to go to the doctor anyway, so I'm just not going to think about it, because if I
Mhm.
worry about it, I'll never stop worrying about it, right? Um yeah, you and Rodeo Chad, which is what we call my dad, definitely have HEDS, which is a hypermobile, I think, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.
Yeah.
Um and like saying I'm pretty sure I have it right now works for me because I value self-diagnosis, and I also know that like it is really expensive to like one,
Mhm.
have a diagnosis, two, get treatment, and like Ehlers-Danlos is something that you're born with and you have it for the rest of your life.
Yep.
And we barely know anything about it in the medical field, and so I can't really afford to like get treated for it right now anyway.
Mhm.
And so a couple years ago, there was like a year where my dad walked. My dad is not even 50. And like 2 years ago, he spent an entire year walking with a cane because he's in incredible pain all of the time. And it helped for a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, but like he didn't go to a doctor to get that cane. You can buy a cane off of Amazon. Um,
Right.
and so like sometimes you just gotta, sometimes for your own mental health and also for your pockets and everything else, you just kind of get over it and you
Mhm.
don't think about it, and and that's definitely not healthy, but it's what we gotta do. you know
Mhm.
um he actually did, oh shit, see, there's things I don't even know about my own father. But like I I think it's just, I am also upset with medical people. I think that often they just kind of forget about the normie experience because either they never had to experience it in the first place, or they're so detached from it because they went to college and had to learn about it for so long that they just don't really remember what it feels like to be an anxious person going to the doctor because they
Mhm.
think they have X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Um, and so as someone who like struggles with anger, it's hard to say that like sometimes you have to just like not get angry with them. But sometimes also getting mad at them makes them take you seriously. And that's why when Astro was going to get his autism diagnosis, I said to him point blank period, if you think that your struggle with attention span or whatever, you can fill in the blank,
Mhm.
is a low number, but you're experiencing it all of the time, you tell them a high number because
Mhm.
then they will listen to you.
Mhm.
And that is truly the best advice that my mom has ever given me and that I give to everyone who's looking to go to the doctor for X, Y, and Z.
Mhm.
If you have experienced autism your entire life, which everyone does because that's how autism works,
Right.
um, you naturally make accommodations for your autism. I act differently. I'm, like I said, I'm masking all of the time.
Yep.
If I were to go right now to the doctor and tell them about how I think I have autism or whatever. I think I only experience like the easy stuff of autism. However, I've been living with it my entire life.
Yep.
It's gotten easy for me to like live as an autistic
Yep.
person. The reason it's easy to diagnose kids is because they often don't really like know language to begin with, and so it's easy to tell like when their developmental markers are not being met.
Hmm.
But also, when a kid tells you that they hurt their finger, you believe them because kids don't know how to lie yet.
Hmm.
Like, kids don't lie.
Hmm.
Like, not really. And when they do, it's obvious that they're lying. So, like,
Yeah.
when a kid tells you, oh, I think I broke my finger hurts really, really bad, a doctor is immediately going to check that finger and they're going to ask them a whole bunch of other questions. And so it's easy to diagnose kids because while they do lie, they do it in like a way that you know that they're not lying. And also, kids have no incentive to lie
Mhm.
unless they have experienced trauma.
Right. Exactly.
Um, and so, like, sometimes you go to the doctor and you just act like a kid. You just gotta go and you gotta act like a child and you gotta over exaggerate your symptoms and your experience. And then they listen to you. And then, you know, it's hard to say one way or the other like how you should act in those situations, but like feel it out, I guess, is
Mhm.
what I would say. I don't know. um but yeah, doctors, they're overworked and underpaid, and I think it's partially to do with that, and it's partially to do with like I said, the circle of intelligence, which is sometimes you're so smart you're a little bit dumb.
I love that because it's true. Honestly, I think that you get so wrapped up in it's almost like I see it like a train, right? This train is going full steam ahead and you're just thinking, oh my god, well it could be this crazy explanation or this thing or this thing or this thing. And you don't realize it was this, oh, well, this patient is literally sitting in front of me presenting all the symptoms for autism. And I'm going, oh, but 80% of people feel this and 90% of blah, blah, blah. You're getting all this, you have all these facts and this knowledge that you can pull from, and you're not slowing down to say, wait, look at what's directly in front of me. I'm just like steamrolling
Yes.
forward in my head. And that I can very much understand. I wanted to say, because Ren said this particular piece that they were feeling a little too riled up about the topic of conversation. If at any point if you don't want to keep listening to it, feel free. You take care of yourself. Um,
Mhm.
we're here to talk. It's a safe
Mhm.
place to share your opinions, and it's also a safe place to say I can't really engage with the topic. Same thing goes for you, Jingles. If
Mhm.
you're ever feeling, if you're like, okay, I'm starting to get a little bit tired, right? Just let me know. It's a really good conversation, but it's also a lot to talk about, and there's
Yeah.
a lot to go over.
Yeah.
So
No, I feel you. You
communication.
can be done whenever you tell me. I can
I
be
have a
done.
couple more things that I want to ask, and
Okay.
they may go in a couple different
Perfect.
directions. But I want to read some of
Sounds
the
good.
other comments. Yumi says, "Pretty sure my dad believes in the Tylenol thing. Told me one day it wasn't good for me when I was sick." Okay. All right. I'm so
Mm.
sorry. Waffle says, my aunt believes her kid got autism from a vaccine and she stopped vaccinating him. That is so dangerous. That is
It
so
is.
dangerous. It makes me scared. Um,
Yeah.
I guess, I mean, they're trying to find that tie that you were talking about as to why more people have autism, but it's completely wrong direction. It's against all the science as to what a vaccine
Mhm.
freaking is or what Tylenol is. Oh my
Mhm.
God. Anyway, but I did want to say, I was thinking about this earlier because you have your mom here, right? And you were talking
I
about
do.
how, um, you know, there's kind of been a learning process for all of you, both about your own disabilities and your own neurodivergencies and within yourselves, and then also, with each other. So for instance, your mom and your dad not knowing about certain things, or not having
Mhm.
the knowledge to know at the time, and they obviously didn't have the knowledge to know when they were, in that time for themselves either. But you have a
Mhm.
lot of different moving parts. You have, a family of people who seeming very intelligent and very intersectional and very empathetic,
Mhm.
and the desire to understand is there, at least from what I see.
Mhm.
um but you're all experiencing neurodivergency from different perspectives. You're all experiencing it together, and you went to school to study this. And
Yeah.
so what is it like, as much as you're comfortable sharing, what was it like kind of growing into that understanding? Did you start to understand these things first? Did a doctor explain something to you? Did your mom start questioning things? And kind of how did that move forward to get you guys to the point that you are now?
Yeah. It honestly and truthfully started as my mom making fun of my dad. My so on the spectrum of the three of us, I'm an only child. Um,
Mhm.
the family dynamic, yes, affectionately, yes, I will say. In
SpongeBob meme,
when I say making
affectionately.
platonically, when I say like making fun of, whenever I say making fun of, I never mean that like we are mean spiritedly, like we are teasing is like the
Mhm.
nicest way to say it. Hello, fellow only child. But like it started with the fact my dad is very stereotypically autistic, right?
Mhm.
I'm gonna say some facts about my dad.
Okay.
He and there's no, I'm not making fun of him except in the way that a child makes fun of their parent. My dad has openly admitted the fact that like when he, I think when he got tested, they do like a facial reading test, or at least he did, where like they gave him a sheet of like 100 faces that people were making, and he had to like give a name to the emotion that they were expressing on
Mhm.
their face. And my dad really struggled with any emotion that wasn't happy, sad, or mad, I think.
Mhm.
Um, like he struggles with reading facial features and like being able to tell how you're feeling based off of the face that you're making.
Mhm.
And my mom and I are over in the, when did he do that? I don't know. We've talked about, he and I have talked about it. And he was like, "Yeah, I really struggled. It was really hard." I think this was when he first got back at the VA. My dad is a veteran, for anyone. When my I think it was when he went back to the VA. He has told me about this. If he, I swear to God, I will like tell people that my dad said something, and then he'll be like, "I've literally never said that before. I swear to fucking God, this happened." Um, and if he doesn't remember, I'm gonna blow up. But basically, like people who are autistic often struggle with like reading faces,
Mhm.
reading facial features, being able to tell like what, I said it earlier, but like that is a stereotypical autism thing.
Mhm.
And my mom and I are like the opposite. I think we're like overly emotional, honestly. Um it takes nothing to make us cry. We'll cry all day. Um so that is like a it's rough when 2/3 of the house feel one way and then the other third of the house is lost completely and
Mhm.
entirely.
Yeah.
Um, I think so. That's how it kind of started. My mom would just like tease my dad for like being emotionally dry, or being like having his, oh, he likes collecting. That's one of his, he has special interests, and his
Mhm.
special interests mean that he collects them like a dragon and they are his hoard. um right now one of his special interests is Magic the Gathering, so he has a lot of
Perfect.
cards of like a lot of Magic cards. That is one of his. He's also getting into watches right now, so my mom used to like tease him on that. He used to have a spreadsheet memorized of all of the My Little Pony toys that I had and
Oh
didn't
my
have,
god.
and whenever he would go to the store and find one that he knew I didn't have, he would buy it for me. And like I was not into My Little Pony that much yet. Like this was back when Gen 3 was still like being put in Target and stuff. And I didn't get into My Little Pony until Friendship is Magic, like properly. And so
I love Friendship is
like
Magic. Sorry. Just continue.
yeah, sorry. Um but like that was when I started getting into My Little Pony, and so like my dad was like more into collecting them than I was in the actual movies,
Hmm.
I think, from my memory at least. But like that was something that he did, and that's how he loves. And so he's not like it's just my mom and I are very different in how our autism portrays. And so it was really hard when we all didn't know that we were autistic. I started to have an inkling that I was autistic in high school. I would make the joke that like my friends are artistic, but I'm autistic said in a British accent because I'm autistic instead of artistic. um so that's when I like first started being like, yeah, I think there's like something not right here. I don't really know. And then um and then time passed and I took my disability studies introduction course, and right around that same time my dad was like, he either said that he was, I swear to god I think he got assessed. I don't think I made that up. Anyway, um he started being more open to that. And then like around that same time my family deconstructed from the religion that we all grew
Yeah.
up in.
Hmm.
And when you go through all of that change at the same time, you really just start to look at the painting that is your life,
Hmm.
and the picture comes together. You finally see you found Waldo in the giant canvas spread that is Where's Waldo. You finally find Waldo and you're like, "Oh my god." And then you just start doing some educating on like how at least in my family's case, how the military benefits off of autistic people. Um which is a conversation we could get into another day because I
Ooh,
can't
okay,
even
yeah.
begin. I'll recommend a book if you're interested later.
That sounds really cool.
But like religion, Waldo is me. Religion and the military both benefit off of people who like strict rules,
Hmm.
who benefit from being told what to do,
Hmm.
etc., 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 etc. There's a way to life that you're supposed to live. And autistic people like having direction and order
Hmm.
on what they're supposed to do in their
Yep.
day-to-day.
Yep.
Habits and hobbies are great. We like having like from this time to this time I do this, and this time to this time I do this.
Yep.
And I don't
Yep.
ever
Yep.
take
Yep.
breaks
Yep. Yep.
during
Yep.
any of this time except to sleep. Um Autistic people typically like that. And so I think also at the same time, like I was finding out that I was gay. And so there's a whole, like, that's a whole other thing. And so I think that like my mom was kind of the catalyst. But then it took me specifically being like, yeah, guys, I think we're all autistic, for my family to be like, oh my God, I think we're all autistic. um, and we have benefited from that in the long run. I think it has helped my parents' relationship. It has helped my relationship with my parents. It has helped as we've brought another person into our lives, like the four, me and my family, and also my partner of 5 years live together
Hmm.
right now. And being able to know that everyone is on the same page in terms of where we are at mentally
Hmm.
is really, really good. And I would highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Um, it has saved me realizing like what is like quote unquote wrong with me. Has helped every relationship that I consider important to me.
Hmm.
um but I don't think at any like I'm lucky in the fact that like all of my family has been really open to discovering more about themselves.
Hmm.
I don't want to get into like specifics, but like I came out as queer, and then other people in my family started coming out as queer, and now we've all looked back on our lives and been like, oh my god, we're all a little
Right.
bit gay, and we're all very autistic, and all of this other stuff.
Hmm. So I think it sounds like it was just sort of a combination of factors. Also, I did want to add, in perfect timing, because this is
Mhm.
not important and there's an ad. I
Mhm.
headcanon that Waldo is autistic. That guy wears the same outfit in every single book and is constantly collecting little tiny trinkets.
It's true. And look at those glasses.
Come on. I mean, come on. Like,
Yeah.
it's obvious. It speaks to me. I see myself in Waldo.
I think he also has a husband in my brain.
I
Is
do
Waldo
think
gay?
I do think that is a gay man. Man? Waldo's not a very cis name.
Waldo is giving T-boy.
Waldo is giving T-boy. So our headcanon is that Waldo from Where's Waldo is a FTM autistic gay person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm liking this. Let's keep going.
Yeah, no. I like this. Oh my god, they have to
Yeah.
release a special Pride edition. Wait, I'll pitch it. We'll have a meeting with the higher ups at
Yes.
Where's Waldo.
Yes. I don't even think. Oh no, they still make them. That's crazy.
Oh my god, I was gonna say something about finding something that a T-boy would have, but anyway, I didn't. Nobody. What?
Trans-day
Hi, Courage.
visibility means Waldo needs to stop hiding. That's so based.
Oh my god, that is beautiful. Wait,
Oh my god.
Okay, hey, you have a username that has a lot of letters in it. Hello. I don't want to just say hello, freak. That feels really wrong.
Hello,
Especially
freak.
in a conversation about disability. But I love that quote. Trans Day of Visibility means Waldo needs to stop hiding. This is true.
Tattoo that on I'm that's my next tramp stamp tattoo. I know that.
Trans tattoo. No.
That's so good.
You're dying. Don't do that. Please don't do that. All right, we're back.
It's 'cause she thinks you're funny.
Don't say that. I'll get an ego, and that would be dangerous.
That's true.
Hey, sit. Hi, puppy. I know you're so sweet, boy. Courage is saying hello. He says, I'm autistic too. I do the little T-Rex hands. And I also like collecting things. And I also like my schedule. He really likes a schedule. Very, very
I was
much
gonna
likes a
say he's
schedule.
been upset about the park. So
He's been very upset about the park. Very upset. He will go to the door at the
Astro,
exact
do
time.
you
every
sleep?
day.
Do you sleep with the T-Rex hands?
Yes.
I sleep with the T-Rex hands.
Yes. I curl them
Yeah.
into the blanket and
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. I
Yes.
love it. I love them. I'm doing it right now. I love it so much. It's comfortable.
I've got
It's
them
like
in my
that's where
shirt.
they belong. Yes.
Yeah. Oh my god. Okay, wait. What is this is more silly goofy. What is the kind of most off the wall or craziest autistic symptom that you have found for yourself?
Oh my goodness. Oh my
Yeah.
god. Okay, when I was growing up, we would like sit in the living room and we would do whatever. And I'll send you a photo of me doing it later. I used
Okay.
to sit. So it was, okay, so like imagine, because you guys can do that.
Uh-huh.
Imagine, you go and sit on the floor, and then you roll over so that you're laying on like where your shoulder and neck meet.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm having a really hard time explaining it without actively doing it. I would lay on my collarbone and my knees. Yeah. So like my head and my collarbone would be resting on the ground, and so would my knees. And my ass would just stick in the air. And I used to sit like that for hours.
Like a little
I still sit
caterpillar.
like- Yes, I still sit like that occasionally. It's
Oh
very
my God.
comfortable. So like that's one where I'll sit in like really like I sit gaily. Hillside, our friend Hillside will tease me on like sitting really weird. And I think that's one where I just like to sit in like the weirdest, and I hold my arms in the weirdest positions. I really like I came back. Welcome back, Pinky.
Hi, Pig.
When I was in the dorm, we had like loft beds, but they didn't go up very high. And I
Mm-hmm.
made under my bed like a little like decompression station, and there was nothing in there except for a carpet so that I didn't have to lay on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what else?
I will say that specifically is less sitting gay and more sitting tistically. That is
Mm-hmm.
very, yeah.
No,
That's
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just my 2 cents.
I think in my life they just intersect. Like I can't be one without both.
Exactly.
I'm just so gay and I'm so autistic and I don't know. I don't think if you took both of those things away from me, I'd be nothing.
My lobster's so
Um,
juicy. Or my steak is so
yes, my
juicy. My
butter.
lobster's so buttery.
Yes. Um. Oh, what else? I don't know. I feel like if Brandon were here, he could give you like a really comprehensive, like, these are all the ways that Jingles is very autistic and it's cute because he thinks it's precious. But I'm not very good at like seeing those things in myself. I
Mhm.
don't know. I liked reading a lot growing up.
Same.
There were a couple of years where my parents, because I read so much, my parents were like, if you read 100 books in a year, we'll give you $100 or something. And there were multiple years that I did do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which is like looking back, I can't even imagine reading 100 books in an entire year.
That's so many books.
It's so many books. I don't know how I did that. I was really into Warrior Cats growing up. I did a
love
lot
the
of Warrior
Warrior
Cats
Cats!
roleplay on Animal Jam.
Yes!
Um,
I love the Warrior Cats.
yeah, yeah.
I'm trying to think too.
Oh my goodness. I have watched South Park all the way through 7 times in the past 4 years.
Oh my god.
The first time I watched South Park all the way through, I finished it in 2.5 weeks.
Oh my
Um,
god.
While like also I was in college, you know, like I was in school and
Oh my.
I just every waking moment was South Park.
Wait.
I have whole episodes and seasons memorized. There's 26 seasons, 27 seasons now.
And 332 episodes. How long is
Yeah.
How long is each episode?
20-ish minutes, between 20 and 23.
Okay, so 332 times 20 divided by 60. Yeah, so that's 111 hours of South Park.
Yeah.
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 I'm not proud of it, but like that did happen and I would do it again. I'm on my second watch through Family Guy right now. Like I just feel like I'm like these are the ways that I'm autistic. I don't have like I kind of hate it. I'm not like when I say I'm not artistic, I truly mean it. I really struggle with like being artistically creative because I have aphantasia. It makes it incredibly difficult for me to like do art and feel good about it. So like even if I were to do art, I would hate it. Because I want to be 100 like I want to get an A+ on it every time. And that's not possible when you're learning a skill. Like you're going to be bad at a skill your first time around. And I hate that personally. And so I don't have hobbies, but I will sit and watch a television show over and over and over and over and over again. So like my special interests are like animal facts and you know, I'm getting into adult animation. Like I really enjoy South Park and Family Guy and Rick and Morty and all that stuff. I love animal facts. I love animal facts. But yeah, all of mine are silly. I don't really have any serious like I don't have any big boy. I love sharks.
Yeah, that's pretty
It's sharks or space, you know, like those are the two genders for autism. I know.
Hey.
I'm reading you. Yeah.
Hey.
Yep. Clocking that T, by the way.
Ding. Weird. That's interesting. I hadn't heard that before. Very interesting. I wanted to say, you said that thing about aphantasia and how
Mhm.
that makes it difficult to make art. And I just had this
Mhm.
thought, and maybe we could, there's a little wormhole or rabbit hole, whatever you want to call it. Wormhole is thematic.
Mhm.
Um, I don't like space. What are you talking about? Anyway,
The space
um,
dragon says into the void.
um, awkward. So there's this artist. His name, I believe, his name is Trevor. And
Uh-huh.
he draws. He's autistic. Has very,
Yes.
yeah. So you know him.
Yes, I know him.
Yes. So, but the whole way that he makes art is that he is given a prompt and he draws exactly what people ask him to draw.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
my connection, I think you can maybe see my connection here, is
Yeah.
that I wonder if aphantasia is something that can be comorbid with autism, and then maybe there is an accommodation for art for you. I don't know if it's still a struggle if somebody says, hey, can you draw this thing? But maybe it's just art in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, for me, my aphantasia is like I don't mind that I'm not artistic because I enjoy being able to fund other people's art.
We know.
Um I love being able to throw my money at artists. If you are in my community at all, I have so much artwork of Jingles, and I just started streaming last May, and I have spent so much money on art. So I don't mind that I can't draw. I wish that I could draw just or like do other artistic things, just because um I want to have them sooner, I think is
Mhm.
really my thing. Part of me wishes I could get into fursuit making, but I don't know how to sew and I don't know how to do any of the other things. And I know that it will look bad in during the learning stages, and that's why I don't do it. Which is
Mm,
okay. Like I am fine with that being my experience. Um my aphantasia is just something like it makes art for me difficult because I can't visualize at all. And I have a very, very limited memory as well
mhm,
because of trauma.
yep.
and so even like the memories that I can see, um I can't see all of the memory, or I can't see, there's just a lot that makes it incredibly difficult. um and so Are you okay? Did you drop something?
Courage got in my chords. I was trying not to make a big deal out of it.
How dare he, stinky
Courage.
boy.
Eh,
Um,
no, go,
but like
go.
those are the things that like make it obnoxious, but it does not affect me like so bad. Like I can live without a hobby. You know, I play video games and I stream, and those are my hobbies now.
Mhm.
I think when I was younger, I was much more upset by it. Jingles has innate artistic ability. You can tell by their incredibly aesthetic notes, but one of the premier rodeo femme traits is an unrealistic expectation of immediate perfection. Yep.
Why did
Yep.
that say people 12? I isn't that an ADHD thing too?
Hmm. Oh, I mean, so part of that is, um, what is it? Oh, it's rejection sensitivity. Like if I don't
Yeah.
think something's good enough,
Hmm.
then other people definitely don't think it's good enough, and if that's the case, then I should just die, which is not something you should feel about yourself.
Yeah,
Have
maybe
a good
not.
day, Waffle. Don't
Bye,
feel that
Waffle.
way. To you guys, I don't want you guys to feel that way. That's just how I feel, and there's no way that that will stop, but I don't want anyone else to feel that way.
Hmm.
But that's just how my brain operates, where it's like, oh, if I'm not perfect at this thing immediately, um and I should definitely not ever try it. Um, which is a bad way to look at anything.
I will say that my neuropsych clocked me. I'm a perfectionist, very, very much a
Mm-hmm.
perfectionist. And as a kid growing up, I wouldn't try things because I was so afraid of not doing it well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I still struggle with it, but there is there's potentially something there with regards to autism or ADHD too, because she said that tends to happen because, and I know it's other reasons, right? Father being a narcissist definitely influenced some of that, and being called a failure and what have you. You know, there are other aspects, but it's also when we are people who are so primed to accept rules and we love rules, we know we see things as there's you know, a right and a wrong way to do certain things. And when we don't do it in the way that the rule said, whatever, if it's internal or external or what have you, we can get really down on ourselves, or it's immense discomfort, right, with that kind of idea. So I think it could be a lot of things with anything with life. It's not just, oh, this is all my autism and it's all this, and you know, there's certain things that are definitely more autistic than they are gay, but it is a spectrum from one to the other. And we could go on a whole thing about gender identity and autism, I'm sure, because that's a whole freaking thing. RSD is part of it, but I also, it's reinforced by quick skill accumulation at an early age. Yeah,
gifted kid syndrome really fucks like everything else up all of the time. It's rough.
I really relate to that, Rodeo Mom, because I feel the exact same way. If I'm not doing things quickly, I don't want to do them at all because I feel like I failed somehow.
That's why I don't have hobbies. Oh my goodness, look at us.
Look at us. We don't do things except suffer. Yay. And then I think the thing is too that what's crazy is that I don't actually play a whole lot of video games. I really only play them on stream or if we're doing something together. I don't play video games by myself, but because so because it's not something that I actually care about getting super, super good at, save for a couple of video games because they were intense interests for a while. Because it's something that I'm not really invested in, I don't really have that same sense of dread about it. About, you know, interacting with it or showing it off to people, because it's not a skill that I really feel like I need to build. It's just something that I do because people enjoy watching it, and it's kind of a brain off activity in a lot of ways. Or if it's a brain on activity, it's kind of an interesting brain on activity.
I do not have that same feeling.
What's your feeling?
I am not that way. So part of it for me, I think, is that I am AFAB. But because of, I think, my autism, and also because I was an only child and I didn't have a whole lot of friends growing up until elementary school, all of my friends in elementary school were boys. Girls did not like hanging out with me. I think they found me annoying because I kind of acted like a boy because, whoa, gender and whatnot.
Oh my God.
So...
Gender, I hardly know her.
Really, right? So part of it is like in my brain, and this is not true, and if you don't agree with me, that's okay, because I don't really agree with me. In my brain, video games are boy activities. And I want to impress the boys that I'm friends with by being good at the activity. And a predominant amount of my viewers are male identifying. Like a lot of them. And so if I am bad at a video game, and one of the men in my chat like is trying to help me, I will just shut down. I can't, because I don't want to be made fun of for being the girl that like tries to be good at video games, you know? Like, I don't want to be seen as someone that is like buttering up to the men around her, but I do tend to do that to begin with. It's very weird. I don't like it, especially because I love hating on men in my chat all of the time. I make fun of guys. I love making fun of men because sometimes y'all are cringe.
It's fair. I accept this.
And so
I make puns.
It's like
it's
my
okay.
brain is so just caught between like 400 different experiences all at once. It's awesome. Autism has comorbidities everywhere. Yes, furries are 5 to 7 times more likely to be autistic. Yes, that's true. I actually, okay, so bringing it sorry, Astro, bringing it back to that college class that I created,
which is still super cool, by the way.
Thank you. One
I didn't
of
know
the
that thing.
readings is about furries and autism, and it's 20
What?
pages.
What? Jingles,
Yeah.
I want to take your class. I want to take this class.
Well, I can't give you a grade on any of it, so I don't think it would be like I don't have like a grading rubric for all of it, but like I can send you everything that I did.
Oh my God, I would love that. Are you kidding? That sounds so cool.
Yeah.
That
Your man-related issues are well-founded. It's
this
true.
is fair.
Daddy issues and whatnot. Don't we all do?
tell me about it.
I'm holding you, Astro. I'm holding you.
But what if the daddy issues have daddy and mommy issues and the mommy issues have mommy and daddy issues?
I'm holding you.
Between absent father, not his fault, and narcissistic grandfather, as a stand-in, you were doomed to a complex relationship with men.
Yeah, it's not fair, but it is the hand I was dealt. And so we truck along, ladies and gents, don't we? And they thems, my fellow babies. Hello.
Babies. Baby babies.
But yeah, it is. It's a whole lot of a lot.
It's a whole lot. I was trying to think about, because the thing is, you're right. I'm not good at knowing what about me is autistic. It took. The fact is, because you said, you know, you were the last to know, right? I very much was too. Everyone, I remember you saying you were more surprised that I am attracted to women than the fact that I am autistic. It's and
true.
Everybody during the reveal was so, oh, this was, you didn't know? Oh, we were, oh, okay. All right, guys.
Yeah. We were all in on it before you were. I'm so sorry.
But I don't know. I know certain things made me have inklings in certain directions. So the thing that we talked about people perceiving me as angry when I wasn't, because when I'm and Pink described it this way, when I'm having a conversation that I'm very interested in or passionate about, I don't have a lot of facial expression. I talk louder and I'm very blunt. And so that can read as angry when I'm not angry. I am genuinely just engaged with the conversation. This is my regular speaking voice. This is how I talk to everybody in every circumstance. I talk to children this way. I talk to everybody this way. But when I'm really interested in a conversation, all of a sudden I have more energy, but my face isn't happy and smiling and big. And so now I understand, okay, that's maybe part of why I come off as a little bit angry. I don't notice that in the moment. But when I look back at certain things, like the T-Rex hands, for example, I told Pink the other day, when I was a kid, I would hold my hands like a T-Rex when I would walk around. So they would be elbows bent, hands flaccid. It's also the gay pose. So story of my life. But I would walk with both hands like that, like a little T-Rex. And when I would stand in line, when we're in school lining up, I didn't stand with my feet parallel. I stood with them crossing on top of each other. So my left foot was pointed to my right and my right foot was pointed to my left, and they were right on top of each other. And I bent my lower back so it made a really steep curve, and I folded my arms and held them right above my butt in the curve of my back. And that's how I would stand in line.
Astro, I know you have a problem with feet, but if I'm wearing socks, can I send you a photo of how my feet look when I stand?
Yes, please.
Okay. Because I fear. Oh.
I fear we are the same person.
I think we are.
Yumi says, I'm all of those. Hi, ladies, gentlemen, and envies. Yay! You're also Yumi, my resident demon, hopefully VTuber at some point. I'm still waiting on Yumi streams. I'm shocked to learn. I am also shocked to learn that. Rodeo Mom, if this is the shock to everybody, I am, in a very complex way, I can find men attractive and masculine people, but I really, really love women.
Girl, same.
Yeah, there we go. That's what it is. I'm also unable to allow myself to sit or stand comfortably. I
I feel like I am comfortable in the ways that I sit and stand,
mm-hmm.
but they don't look comfortable to
Nope.
other people.
Nope.
And they're always like, "How are you comfortable?" Like wet, like we said earlier, me laying on my clavicle, that is really comfortable for me. No one else thinks so. Um, but
Maybe I try it.
yeah, but they're also doing detrimental to my like body.
No, Jingles, I do. Yeah, so I cross them over, except so your left leg, how it's almost totally parallel, my right leg would also be folded inwards. And that's exactly how I stand.
Sometimes I stand like that too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the same thing.
yeah.
Um,
Look at us.
look at us. Autism all
I'm
over the
gonna del-
place.
I'm gonna delete that toe pic now, so that it doesn't trigger you in the future. Because I love you so much.
I just get triggered by random Jinglefoot picture. One day
I mean,
reserving. I mean, what?
I mean, I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yumi, if you do a Pokemon stream, I am watching every second of that, and I will be autistic in your chat. Pokemon is one of my special interests. I have played, if you think I have not played, when I say every single game, I own every single game, and I have played them all at least a couple of times. When I am feeling stressed, I will, FBI, don't listen to me. I will download a Nintendo DS or Game Boy Color emulator and then download Pokemon ROMs and play them through at 4 times speed just to feel something again.
Oh my.
And I specifically will play Pokemon Emerald and Pokemon Platinum because they're two of my favorite games. But I have played the Pokemon Ranger games. I have played the Pokemon the Rumble Blast. I played Pokemon Snap on the Nintendo 64. I've played the online TCG. I collect the cards. I had stuff. I love Pokemon. I love Pokemon. And the beautiful thing is, the games tend to come out, if not on my birthday, really, really close to it. So it's perfect. It's wonderful.
Cute.
I love this. But yeah. So I try to think about ways that I am autistic, but part of it is that having autism, it's just life. You know, I don't think about it as being different than other people until, like you said, I am confronted with a society around me that all of a sudden feels disabling. That social model that you talked about. So now I want to use this now because I think that's a really important distinction. I don't feel disabled in this conversation with you right now. I feel comfortable. You know, I don't feel like I have to really perform or mask in any particular way. I'm just talking and we're just having a conversation. But if I go and sit with my family members or other people in social situations, there's all of a sudden I feel exhausted. I feel like, you know, I'm hyper vigilant as to, am I expressing myself the right way? Am I making the right face? Do I have the right tone? And then all of a sudden it feels really disabling in those contexts. And I think that shift, and I know people talk about this, but again, you know, in the spirit of having this conversation and trying to help make some change, I think that keeping that in mind, that, you know, a lot of disabled people tend to, especially when you're growing up, you look at your disability as the problem because it's often framed that way, right? You're a giant issue because you're disabled. And then the society around you says, yeah, you are a problem because you can't produce at the same rate as somebody else. And therefore, you know, you're not feeding capitalism.
Yeah.
But the reality is that the world around you does not have the capacity for who you are. That is not your fault. And it's really hard to internalize that because, especially with for people with trauma and disability, I was raised to believe that I was a giant problem in every single form. And so anything more about me that was a problem, that didn't conform, that didn't obey, would be more of an issue. And so accepting there isn't something wrong with me is really hard, especially when I'm autistic and I make mistakes. And sometimes those mistakes are honest and because of my autism. And I bring back to that point earlier where I said, you know, there are people that in my life, and you know more about this, there are people I love in my life that I love so deeply and honestly, it's insane. And because of my autism, I have missed things that I wish had been communicated in this very clear-cut way, because had I known, I wouldn't have done those things. But because of my autism, I wasn't able to guess that somebody was upset or that something was wrong. And I'm left here thinking, oh, well, at the beginning, it was like, everything's my fault. I did everything wrong. And
Yeah.
I had to sit with the fact that I didn't know. And, you know, as time passes, I still love my people, right? It doesn't go away. I still love them no matter what happens in the meantime. But, you know, things happened because of my autism that I don't like that happened. And it's a disabling condition. And I don't think that, I think I need to work on kind of sitting with that. And I wonder how many other people here too. A lot of people here are neurodivergent. A lot of people here are chronically ill. You know, and feeling that sense of guilt for your disability being disabling, which is a social thing, obviously, but you know, it's really hard to accept it. I think it's also part of why it's so hard for people to get treatment, is because you feel like you should just be able to just do this, right? Everybody else can do this. Why can't I do this? And then the treatment is, well, we can't cure it. We can't make it go away. You have to live with it. And then you just kind of feel that sense of defeat of, well, dang, you know, I won't ever be able to do it the way other people do it. And I'll always have to preface myself with, I'm really blunt and I'm this and that. And, you know, I yearn for a world where it's more like what we were talking about, where there's really clear communication, where people have more empathy because you care about people and you want to communicate with them and you want them to understand in whatever way that needs to take, whether they need to use an AAC or, you know, they have to use sign to communicate, or they need clear boundaries in order to communicate. There's nothing wrong with that, right?
Yeah.
So what are we talking about? We're still talking, we're kind of talking about autism specifically. We've gone all over the place. We really have. That's what I love about this, is I knew you, because when we were talking about the topic that we wanted to do, we were both originally, okay, you know, one topic. And then I was like, I really don't think that that's the way that this conversation is going to go at all. I think we can just put it under the banner of disability and go from there, and whatever happens, happens. Because either way, I know you, and I know, like I've said, you are super intersectional. So any conversation we have is going to expand beyond just, this is the definition of linguistics, and this is what it means to be a phoneticist. It's going to go somewhere else. And I knew that that was going to be interesting no matter what.
It's true. It's true.
So, has everyone eaten today? I have, but I have not in a while. Do you have any other things that you want to share or talk about? Any important things that you think should be spoken?
Oh my goodness. No, I feel like as long as I answered everyone's questions, that's all that's important to me. I think that I don't know. I just hope that everyone enjoyed this more than anything.
I had a great time. I've learned so much about you, and you made a class, and I mean, I knew you had a degree, but learning about, for me, just being your friend, learning about all the things that you learned about in the process of getting that degree, I just go, you know, damn, I want you to talk about it more. It's really cool.
Yeah,
seriously.
I've definitely, I've loved it. I'm excited. I finally got all my crap out of, hydrate, whoops. I finally got all my shit out of the storage unit, and so I'm hoping to maybe do some streams with the hand cam on, and maybe me taking notes, and I don't know if that would be fun to watch, but
it would be.
It's something I want to do, and so I'm probably going to do it anyway. Haha.
I would be autistic all over that. I would love that. Please, let's learn a thing. Please, 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 please. That sounds like so much fun.
Please. Yeah.
But I feel like I've learned a lot more about you. I've learned a lot more about your family, and everything I know about them, the more that I know, I love them even more. You guys just seem like such good human beings. And then all these different
I do
ideas.
I do look mean. I do look mean. You're absolutely right. I get told that I have a mean face all of the time.
That's so funny. Jingles is so cool to hang out with. They, you know, so many things. Brandon has said this, but in order to unlock the Jingles DLC, which is the encyclopedia, you have to kind of press the right button, and then you'll go, oh yeah, I have extensive knowledge about, you know, Greek mythology, and I'll just drop that in there. But because you're not just very, oh, this is my special interest and I'm going to talk about it nonstop. It's sort of like, if I ask you a question about it, I will hear
Oh yeah.
many interesting
Oh, you
things.
will get an answer.
Yes, you will get an
You just
answer.
have to ask the right question,
Yes.
and I have to also make sure that I am comfortable answering it, which is
Yeah.
sometimes hard. I don't know, it depends. I'm an open book 90% of the time, and then if I think that someone actually isn't interested in the thing that they asked me about, then I'm quiet about it. But
I just love it when people are interested. I maybe that is the autism in it too. I've always loved when people get really passionate or interested in a topic, and just listening to them talk about it and trying to understand it is very fun for me. I love when people do that. And I also love doing that myself, but I get guilty and feel like I'm talking too much and da 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 da, da, but we're working on it in therapy.
damn right.
Yeah, but I hope that you do. I mean, all these things I've learned more about the difference between SLP and OTs and PTs, and I'm applying this to, I mean, there are people in my life who either use, you know, these services or work with people in these areas, and I just feel like I learned a lot. And it was really cool. We went and we were talking about society and capitalism and burnout and, you know, politics, and that's the idea of a wormhole, right?
True.
Just a rabbit hole, but I made it space themed because everything needs to be space themed. Just so we understand. Having them home again is such an incredible gift, and even though the circumstances aren't ideal, I'm so happy to have them home, and I'm soaking up every bit of time we have together. Aww.
Guys, I think my mom loves me. I'm not
Your
entirely
mom
sure
loves
though.
you. Gross. I'm kidding.
Gross. Stop. You two and Pinky should do a whole stream about astrology. I fear I know very little about astrology. Like, I think I know as much as everyone else, I think. I don't know. I'm a normie.
I don't really know much about astrology either. I know astronomy, not astrology.
I can tell you the story behind all the astrological signs, but I don't.
I can
don't know
talk
what
to you
they
about
mean.
my favorite constellations and nebulas and visible stars in different parts of the night sky, and I can talk to you about cosmic events and the microwave background noise that exists in the universe, and also why matter exists, but I don't know much about.
I know I'm a Pisces.
I am a Scorpio or a Sagittarius cusp.
Yeah, you're really lucky you're not a Scorpio. Oh my goodness.
I've only heard bad things about Scorpios.
Because they're bad.
I'm so grateful for all the very cool people they bring into our lives. Aw, I hope I'm one of those.
You are.
Pokes hands very ooh-like. Pokes fingers.
You are. I'm
a Scorpio.
It's okay,
Sai.
Yumi. I forgive you.
Yumi, you are just the best human being, and therefore nothing can taint that. nothing can taint you for me. You're too great. Bailey has a whole thing. This community has a way of making everyone feel welcome no matter what. Whatever someone is feeling down or hating who they are, this community has a way of making all that go away and like it never exists. Aw, don't make me cry.
Aww.
Aw, I hope so.
Brandon's also a Gemini. I like Geminis.
Interesting. I'd love to see if I could get Brandon to have a discussion with me, but I don't know if he would do that.
About being a Gemini?
Not specifically about being a Gemini, just about whatever he'd want to.
Oh, I mean, it's really his schedule you have to work around. He's not available on Wednesdays at all, so you have to
Yeah.
do it on like a Thursday. And then it's not a wormhole Wednesday.
I did do Wormhole Wednesday on Friday last week, so I can be
did see that,
flexible.
yeah.
Sometimes my autism relents. But I love this format, like you said, because it's just a really interesting conversation that can go in a lot of different directions. And I end up, because I'm having people that are my friends on, I'm learning so much more about all of you, which is really cool. And I feel like I'm every conversation I've had so far, I have something else to talk with my therapist about and learn about myself. So yeah, if nobody else has any other questions or comments, I feel really satisfied with the conversation. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel great. I have no
Yeah.
complaints at all.
Yeah. I'll recover one day. Just cackled and felt an extreme short stabbing pain in my stomach. Hey, that's probably not good. So,
Probably not.
if anybody has any last questions or comments, I'll let that sit for a couple seconds and we can just, or like maybe a minute or two, and we'll just sit. And otherwise, I think that was Wormhole Wednesday.
Hell yeah. I think it went
Whoopee.
great.
Featuring Jingles. I'll shout you out too. If you guys are not following Jingles, what the hell are you doing? By the way, we'll do this.
And what if
They
I
were
kiss
just-
you on your mouth?
And then do I have the shout out username? Courage, hey, come here. No, don't get on my cords again, please. Please. I love you so much. Please don't. No.
Do it, Courage. Do it.
Courage, no.
Let the naughty fill you.
No. Rat Rodeo. There we go. So please go follow Jingles. They're lovely. You heard them. I mean, they're a lovely human being. Very smart. They're very silly. Very calming to listen to.
I've heard. I feel like I'm the opposite. I feel like I'm very annoying, but people like me, so I guess.
I will say, I know you have particular feelings about your voice, and I know that saying anything about your voice is probably going to slide off like water, but the other thing to consider is that it's really a vibe. You're very calming.
It's true.
You have a very calming vibe.
Yeah.
So there's that as well. Astro, you created all this. This community is the only the way it is because of you. You brought people together through Space Dragons. Oh, okay. Possible now confirmed autism. You brought people together through Space Dragons and possible in parentheses now confirmed autism. That is so funny.
I don't know how you could write space dragons in the same sentence as possible autism. Like,
that was so funny. As someone who used to hate streamers, you are one of my absolute favorites and are always so kind. And oh, don't stop. You're gonna make me cry. I've gotten so emotional. I have to be for real with you, Jingles. When I was thinking about how much empathy you have, I was starting to choke up.
oh,
I was starting to cry.
oh, please don't. I love my babies, and you're one of them now. I've adopted you, even though you're older than me, but
Yes.
by a chunk of time. But yeah, I don't know. I think my empathy is probably my best aspect. I don't think I'm perfect by any means, and I definitely have disliked people. I think I dislike a lot of people, but I think empathy is like the best way for us to communicate and
Mhm.
create community. And so, be more empathetic.
I think that's also a great note to leave on because we talked about this all throughout this conversation. Having more empathy is the baseline for community. It's the baseline for understanding all kinds of people. If there's one thing to take away, or a couple of things to take away, I think, number one, accommodate yourself in whatever way that is helpful to you. Don't be afraid to explore yourself and understand yourself because it will lead you to be a lot happier with your life. And have empathy for yourself and other people. Show yourself and other people compassion. We need more of it in this godforsaken world. All right, guys. Well, Jingles, thank you so much. So much. I had so much fun. This was so much fun.
I'm glad. I'm here.
I loved it. I loved
I
it
love
so much.
you.
I love you
had
too.
a great time.
I'm so glad. And if down the line, you have another topic you want to talk about, you're always welcome to come back and we can do it again.
Hell yeah.
I'm so happy to do
All
that.
right.
Thank you guys for joining for our second Wormhole Wednesday. Yay! Second birthday. Yay. Courage is so excited. His tail is wagging. And I'm going to hop off with that. He's going to pull out my microphone. So that's going to work really well for me anyway. But I will catch you guys on the flip side. I will be streaming tomorrow. I think Jingles will be too. And I will see you all later. Bye, bye, bye. Bye, bye,
Goodbye,
bye.
guys.